for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, March 30th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 1 degree. In Smiths Falls, it's 2. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. A new briefing note from the panel of science experts advising the province on the health crisis shows Ontario is at a COVID tipping point. City News reporter Laura Carney with the reasons why.
The third wave, unlike anything we've seen, with variants of concern leading the way. That, according to the scientific director of the province's COVID-19 Science Advisory Table, Dr. Peter Uni.
We have already crossed every threshold that we passed that led us into the lockdown end of December. VOCs
now account for 67% of all infections in this province and are leading to a 63% increased risk of hospitalization. Now, the province's Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. David Williams, says people need to continue following the rules, keeping your distance, wearing a mask.
By doing what you need to do, you won't get in the hospital, you won't get in the ICU, and these recommendations are not just loose talk. These have real life implications.
But what Dr. Uni says is needed now, short, harsh restrictions, possibly another lockdown. And he says the vaccine rollout, not enough to stop the third wave. I'm Laura Carney.
Now, Canada is set to receive 1.5 million doses of the Astrazeneca vaccine today from the United States. This is the loan we told you about a couple of weeks ago we're getting from our neighbors. That has to be repaid later on this summer. It's arriving, though, as a new poll suggests Canadians have less faith in the Astrazeneca vaccine than the others approved for use in Canada.
The survey conducted by Leger and the Association for Canadian Studies finds just 53% of respondents say they trust the AstraZeneca vaccine being given to themselves or family members. By comparison, 82% said they'd trust receiving the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, and 77% said the same of the Moderna vaccine. The AstraZeneca vaccine has been plagued with problems, including safety concerns, which prompted the National Advisory Committee on Immunization to recommend that it not be used in people under the age of 55. Laurie Paris, The Canadian Press.
City News Time, 9:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Sun and cloud for us today with a gusty south wind will climb to 16 degrees. Tonight, cloudy near 9, and tomorrow a change. Periods of rain, not quite as warm, the high near 11. For today, the high 16.
And right now in Ottawa, 1 degree. In Smiths Falls, it's 2. The OPP says a 44-year-old Carleton placeman wanted has now been located. Police tweeting this morning the 44-year-old is wanted for attempted murder last weekend during a home invasion in Carleton Place and was taken into custody without incident. Lanark OPP officers were called to a house between Bridge and James Street around 10 o'clock on Saturday night. Shots had been fired inside the home, and while police report there were injuries, they were not related to the gunshots. After this, city's shelters were hit with COVID-19 outbreaks across the entire system earlier this year. The situation at the Ottawa Mission is starting to improve.
Mission CEO Peter Tilley says the shelter was able to return to normal pandemic operations after the outbreak status and lockdowns were lifted. This includes limited client visits and admissions to services like its addiction program. He tells me it's good to be somewhat back on track.
We're still cohorting people to separate rooms when we do new intakes, but still able to finally start taking in people during these times.
Tilley says vaccinating shelter users is a factor behind the return to stability at the Mission. Regular vaccinations are scheduled for the shelter each week to ensure those in the system are at less risk of contracting the virus while living in a congregate setting. Alex Gouge, City News.
And I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's got the news and the views.
He's got views on the news.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
I'm confused. Are you confused? Maybe I shouldn't be confused, but I'm kind of confused. Maybe I'm just easily confused. Good morning. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News, and I'm confused about vaccines. Well, one vaccine in particular, the Astrazeneca vaccine. Maybe you've heard of it. I'm hoping that through the course of the morning, as we make our way through this radio show today, my confusion will eventually be replaced with clarity. Because goodness gracious, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a little on the fuzzy side right now when it comes to this AstraZeneca vaccine. Why do health authorities keep changing the advice when it comes to this vaccine? Who should get it? How old? What effect do they think that this has on Canadians? And can this country, can Canada, let's face it, already suffering from a badly botched vaccination rollout, can this country really afford to be limiting the use of millions of doses of vaccine now at this critical time? We have the director of the Center for Disease Control warning of impending doom. And yet, look at what is happening in this country with the AstraZeneca vaccine. And who are you supposed to listen to? You know, it's been said, too many cooks. Too many cooks spoil the broth. And I think that applies to the ever-changing advice on the AstraZeneca vaccine. There's too many cooks. We have this organization called NACI, and doesn't it sound authoritative? Don't you want to believe everything they say? It is, after all, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization. I mean, if you can't believe the National Advisory Committee on Immunization, who can you believe? And yet it seems to change its position on the AstraZeneca vaccine more often than a single man changes the sheets on the bed. Just to recap what this group has said about this vaccine in just the last 30 days. First, back in the start of March, it said, don't use it on people over the age of 65. Not enough data. Don't use it on people over the age of 65. Then, 2 weeks later, it said, okay, go ahead, use it on people over the age of 65. And in Quebec, they didn't listen to the original advice anyway and just used it on people over the age of 65. That just happened in the span of 2 weeks. Don't use it? Okay, go ahead and use it. Oh, okay, all right. Then, when European countries suspended the use of this vaccine because of blood clots, it didn't say anything. And now, most European countries have resumed inoculations. Now, along comes, again, it is the National Advisory Committee on Immunization. It comes along, and what is it saying now? Don't use it on people under the age of 55. Ladies and gentlemen, what are people supposed to make of this? What message does this send? Don't use it over 65. Don't use it under 55. Use it over 65. What is the message that's being sent here? Stay tuned. We might change our mind in another 2 weeks. We already have an incredible challenge to overcome. We're trying to overcome vaccine hesitancy in this country, let alone having to deal with far-out wing-nutted anti-vaxxers that invade social media with all manner of conspiracy theories. Aren't they giving themselves a round of applause today? You bet they are, doing victory laps. This is the last thing we need. An advisory group that twists in the wind. Then you have the regulator, right? It's called Health Canada. And what is it saying about all of this? Is it consistent with the ever-changing advice from the National Advisory Council on Immunization? I mean, it's Health Canada, isn't it Health Canada that's in charge at the end of the day? Isn't it the regulator? Isn't it in charge of approving vaccines for Canadian immunization program? What's its position on the AstraZeneca vaccine? What's its position? Is it safe for seniors? Is it not safe for seniors? Is it safe for people under 55 or not? Well, it would seem to be. Based on the latest news reporting about Health Canada and the AstraZeneca vaccine, Health Canada, to this day, despite all the flipping and flopping all over the place, Health Canada considers this vaccine safe to use for all Canadian adults. Oh, it's going to slap a warning on it about blood clots. So, yeah, I'm a little confused. Are you just a little bit confused? Is your confidence eroded? Well, if so, join the club. I see in the news media today, Liberals doing another victory lap. We're getting 1.5 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from the United States. Could be arriving as soon as today. Who do we use it on again? Will that change by delivery time? Don't use it on 55-year-olds. 56-year-olds, that's just fine and dandy. And remember, a month ago, the advice was don't use it if you're 65. Even though Health Canada says it's safe for adults of all ages. Try to follow along. Who's in charge of the immunization program in Canada? Salvador Dali! The Prime Minister and the Mayor of Ottawa are touring a local vaccine clinic this morning. Good day for a photo op. Maybe they'll sort it all out for us. And then you have this audio from yesterday. Premier Doug Ford. This is another confidence-building moment from our political leaders as we continue to live the pandemic life. Premier Ford taking reporters' questions during his Daily Doug news conference, saying, get a load of this, saying, I wouldn't roll the dice on AstraZeneca. I'd wait and take one of the others. Roll tape.
To get back to Christina's question about vaccine hesitancy and the AstraZeneca use being suspended on people under 55, you just said that you wouldn't hesitate to cut the use of it if it's necessary.
Yeah.
Isn't this going to add in an extreme way to hesitancy of people to get that vaccine, whether they're over 55 or under 55?
Yeah, again, we got updated just late last night, probably about 10, 11 o'clock at night, and the federal government will be in full discussions, as we have been since yesterday and today, to see the direction of which way we're going to go with this. But if there's any issues below 55, I won't hesitate to just say enough. I'd rather wait. It means a month or 2 months for Pfizer and Moderna and J&J than roll the dice on this AstraZeneca.
I'd rather wait. Okay, this is the Premier, okay? The government has a portal taking appointments for vaccines. Some of them are AstraZeneca vaccines. The health minister got a dose of AstraZeneca vaccine yesterday. Play the last part there of the first clip where he says, I'd rather wait and take Pfizer, Moderna, or J&J. Play that.
I won't hesitate to just say enough. I'd rather wait. It means a month or 2 months for Pfizer and Moderna and J&J than roll the dice on this AstraZeneca.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Premier, filling us with all kinds of confidence. 1.5 million doses of this vaccine coming to Canada. Hundreds of thousands of those doses likely headed to Ontario. Thousands, maybe tens of thousands headed to Etobicoke and the heart of the Ford Nation. And the Premier says, I wouldn't roll the dice. I wouldn't roll the dice. So then he is asked quite rightly by the reporter, probably thinking, did I just hear that right? What about the people who already got this shot, Mr. Premier? Did they roll the dice?
So, have people that have gotten that vaccine already, have they rolled the dice?
No.
Oh, shut up. No wonder I'm confused. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
The location is unique. There's, as you can see, it's open, and we have large windows. You can sit down and you can look outside. And this scene is not many scenes like that in Ottawa anymore, with the high buildings. And we have the train station to the west of us. We have the train yards. To the south, we have Saint Laurent Shopping Center, not far from here. And OC Transpo, not far from here. And the train, the light train, again, is not far from here. You can find breakfast. The breakfast, it was 7 or 8 years ago, it was one of the best five restaurants in Ottawa. One of the 5 best breakfasts in Ottawa. 7 or 8 years ago, it was in the Citizen. And our club sandwich is voted by customers the best in town. And the pea soup, too, is voted the best in town. We sell, we make pizza, we make Italian food, Lebanese dishes. Many customers describe it as it has the prices of the 60s, very reasonable prices. And the food, many say the best in town, not me. Many customers say that. It was a shock. It was a shock. And we went from doing well to barely doing very little. We relied heavily on the takeout, and the takeout was not that much. There was some. I hear from many customers that they are willing to come and sit inside. They're not afraid of the spread, as long as we wash our hands, sanitize everything, and wear your mask and keep the distancing. Most or all our customers are okay with that. So they are against the lockdown, They are supporting us a lot. And if it wasn't for the community loyalty, we wouldn't be here today. So I have to thank them for their support so far. It's been great.
Pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Big show ahead for you, by the way. The professor. He'll be here after the 9:30 news. Professor Ian Lee. He's with us every Tuesday morning, Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. We are going to talk about the frenzy in the housing market. It's quite something to watch. Watch the real. You leaf through some of the real estate listings. The Globe and Mail. It's becoming now that the thickest part of the Globe and Mail newspaper is like the real estate section, where they go through, this is what the house was listed for and this is what it sold for. And recently one of the stories was a house in North York, nice house, nice looking house, like 2,500 square foot house, 5 bedrooms. It sold for more than $600,000 over the asking price, $2.6 million. I mean, it's North York, right? It's not Beverly Hills. It's North York in Ontario. So housing bubble. Are we in a housing bubble? Should the government intervene and do something? Should CMHC intervene and do something to try and cool this housing market down? That's one of the things that we'll get into. We're certainly going to talk about this AstraZeneca vaccine news. Michelle Rempel-Garner is going to join us. She is going to give us kind of the political reaction to all of this. She's the health critic for the official opposition here in Ottawa, a Conservative member of Parliament. We're also going to get the scientific side of things. Try to decipher all of this changing advice when it comes to the AstraZeneca vaccine. Now, remember, we're going to focus on a local story now. Remember before the pandemic, biggest story in Ottawa before the pandemic was what? Light rail, right? You remember when light rail dominated the news and light rail was the biggest problem in the city of Ottawa? Isn't it weird to look back and think, yeah, those were the good old days? One of the problems that plagued the first year of light rail was frozen switches, right? Rail switches, freezing in a cold Canadian winter. Who could have thought it could ever be a problem? Part of the blame was put on the heaters that were supposed to prevent the switches from freezing in the first place. Well, this is quite a story. I was first directed to this story by City Councillor Carol-Ann Meehan. She got in touch with David this week, and she said, you won't believe this story, the history of this particular angle, a local company named Hovey Manufacturing. And Marco Campagna is the president of Hovey Manufacturing, which is in the Leitrim Business Park. And Mr. Campagna, good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, it's very nice to hear from you, sir. Tell me a little bit about your company, first of all. Hovey Manufacturing.
It's actually called Hovey Industries.
Hovey Industries, all right.
The company's been around for over 50 years. Everything that we do is based in the metal manufacturing, custom metal enclosures. We're developing a product actually soon we hope to sell to the city of Ottawa that uses steam to thaw the ground. We actually the technology was applied at Lansdowne Park to thaw the field when they were refurbishing the park. We make a generator set for the construction lift companies. Multitude of different things.
Right.
We're kind of a creative company.
Sounds very cool. You were your company, part of the initial procurement process for the LRT Confederation line. What particular aspect of it were you involved with?
It's quite a long story, Rob, but actually at the beginning we weren't part of the process. The whole procurement process was very peculiar. I've never seen anything like it. We weren't allowed to see the specification to understand, what we were bidding to. And then we found out later in the process, not from RTG, but from one of the subcontractors that we didn't even qualify to bid because the technology they were originally specifying didn't include what we make. So we had to sort of scratch and claw our way into to the process.
You scratched and clawed your way into the process. Now,
essentially, the specification it's called switch protection. When we put switch heaters on moving rail, and the specification called for electric switch protection, and we built a product that uses natural gas or propane. So, good for them. They amended the bid so that they took the word electric out, so we were allowed to bid to it.
Oh, I see. Okay. But you correct me if I'm wrong, but the switch heaters designed by your firm had been used in the city before, right?
Absolutely.
Belfast Yards and the original O-Train, right?
The O-Train has Hovey product on it. The Belfast Yards, and that was the kind of strange thing when it came down and the contract was awarded. We didn't get the whole thing of the Confederation line. We got part of it, the Belfast Yard, and we weren't quite sure why that was, but we were happy to get it.
Right. And again, it uses natural gas. to heat
Correct.
the switch, to prevent freezing of the switch, right?
Correct. It's like the furnace in your home, using hot air, pushes hot air onto the switch, and it melts the ice and snow and then evaporates the water, so that at the switch point there's moving rail, so that rail can move from one side to the next, so the trains can pass each other or get onto the track beside it. Like, they're on the O train at Carleton University, all the various places where the trains pass each other.
Yeah. And again, it's the Hovey switch heaters that are used on the original O-train line, right?
Correct.
Never had a problem with them, right?
Never had a problem. Our units have been on pretty much every transit system in Canada, Calgary Transit, Edmonton. Very proud to go into Union Station and see all of Hovey's products in there. Yeah.
Right. So you managed to get the technology into the Belfast yard, but for some reason, when it came time to pick for the entire Confederation line, they went with a different company that used electric heaters for the switches, right?
Correct, and a very good company.
Very good company. All right.
It really wasn't applicable to our environment. That's what I told the folks, the company that had let the product in the Belfast yard. We went for a tour of the Belfast yard prior to the Confederation line being open, and I did discuss it with them, saying, "Listen, you need to look at this, because there's going to be a concern down the road in our particular environment in Ottawa. I don't think that the electric solution is going to work in all cases."
Right. And then, we had a spectacle at times. There were people out there with blowtorches, like unfreezing switches, right?
Yep.
Right. Yeah. So you were right all along. As I understand, I'm sorry, sir. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, that was our presumption. I can't tell you whether, 100% certainty. I stamped my feet and told them that we were right. But being an Ottawa boy, understanding the environment, in this particular case, we really thought that they were going the wrong way on the main line.
Right. Okay. So as I understand it, the switch heater product line, you sold that product line to a different company based in Aurelia, is that right?
No. We sold it to a Canadian company that was based in Edmonton.
Okay.
That company was then sold to an American company. The facilities are still in Edmonton, I think, for the Canadian company. So that's who we sold it to.
Therman Heating Systems, is that the name of the
That was
company?
the ultimate company that we had sold it to a company called CCI. But they then sold their company to Thermon.
I see. Okay. All right. So the reason I want to bring that up is because, as I understand it, they're going to replace the electric switch heaters using the product that was originally designed by Hovey, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So it's kind of come full circle, right?
Sorry, that's what Councillor Meehan told me. I really haven't gone back to check which switch heaters they're going to be using, but that's my understanding, that Thermon will be either has been or will be replacing those electric appliances with gas-fired switch heaters. Yes.
Gas-fired switch heaters.
Yep.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? I mean, there must be a certain amount of kind of I told you so vindication here, Mr. Campagna, right?
Actually not. I mean, this has been 4 years since we sold this product line, so we're looking forward. We're doing some great things, some exciting things. Yes, I mean, what I do appreciate is the fact that it's our product that's in our city. So, and I certainly, I didn't want to ever take the Confederation line in the wintertime when I knew there was going to be a volume of snow, but now I feel comfortable doing that. So I'm happy for our city. I'm happy for the residents that these units are going to be put in there so that we have some reliable service, at least with respect to switch heaters.
Okay. Mr. Campagna, thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, nice to hear from you. Yeah. Continued success there. By the way.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Sounds very innovative company. Hovey Industries. Marco Campagna. The news coming up. Then the professor, Ian Lee from Carleton University on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, March 30th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 3 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 5. And here's what's making news this hour. It's a COVID tipping point in Ontario. The description of the rising rate of cases and the rising case of or rate of variant cases in Ontario. It comes as the Hospital Association president is warning intensive care units across Ontario are seeing younger patients with more severe cases of COVID-19. The warning comes as our country gets 1.5 million dose shipment today of Astrazeneca vaccine. That has just been determined should only be given to people 55 years of age and older. Yesterday, all provinces and territories suspended the use of the vaccine in the age group below, pending results of further study. It's because of a possible link to rare blood clots. The OPP says a 44-year-old Carleton Place man wanted has been located this morning. Police tweeting out the 44-year-old was wanted for attempted murder last weekend during a home invasion in Carleton Place. That man was taken into custody without incident. This year's leading Canadian Screen Award nominees are a film featuring The Walking Dead and several series fans wish would revive. The zombie feature Blood Quantum is up for a leading 10 film awards at the award show in May, and the now-defunct global smash Schitt's Creek is tops on the TV side, 21 nominations for its 6th and final season. City News Time, 9:33. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Good morning, Professor Ian Lee from Carleton University. Welcome back.
Good morning, Rob.
Are we in a housing bubble? What's your opinion on that? Are we in a housing bubble? I know we talked about this last week, but I want to get right back into it with you.
Probably so, but I want to. There's a couple of points that I think are really important for everybody to understand about this.
All right. Okay.
And I'm talking the real estate market. You know, we talk as if there's one market.
Yeah.
And in many markets, there is one market. There's one, world price for gold. There's one world price for West Texas Intermediate oil. Most commodities,
right.
There's a world price.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a regional price. Natural gas is the Henry Hub price, which is only kept in the United States. It's a very different price in Europe, but it's a regional price. With real estate, you cannot, even though we quote national averages, it's grotesquely misleading because of that famous phrase, all real estate's local. And meaning by that, there's an Ottawa market, there's a Montreal market, there's a Moncton market, a Toronto market, a Vancouver market.
Yeah.
There is no, quote, national market.
Yeah,
and,
but they're all hot now, though. They're all hot.
They are,
now,
but
right?
the price points are very different.
Right.
And somebody listening may say, what are you talking about, Ian? There's local markets even within the local markets. I mean, there's a Glebe market, there's an Alta Vista market, there's a Canada market, and for sure.
And they're all hot now.
And they are. But my point is, the markets are real estate markets are highly differentiated. The second quick point I want to make, and I did make it last week, but I want to make it again, is that real estate is unique in two other dimensions, real estate market. And that is, to the extent that people think of it as an investment, it's a very unique investment. Nobody can live in a Bitcoin. Nobody can live in an ounce of gold.
Right.
Nobody can live in a barrel of oil.
No.
But you can live in your house investment if it is an investment.
Yeah.
And then you get into a debate, is a house an investment or just a place to live? But the point is, you can make money on it, and there's no other investment in the world that I know of that you can live in.
Right.
Commodities and bonds and stocks, you can't live inside the stock.
Right.
And so that really changes the market. And then the third thing I want to make, the other thing that makes it unique, is that because it's such a big ticket expenditure compared to any other consumer purchase, it necessarily involves credit and necessarily involves government, not just in the sense that governments regulate interest rates, so the Bank of Canada, but you have governments involved indirectly by regulating rent controls that create shortages there, and the record is very, very clear on this over 50, 70 years of economic research. Canada and the States, rent controls create shortages of rental housing. And then thirdly, of course, what we have is this very recent phenomenon in Canada, in Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa, and elsewhere, where you have very left-wing city councils, and we've got one too, where they're actually trying to prevent the growth of new housing in the burbs. And they're doing it by wrapping themselves in the flag of the climate.
Sure.
And I say that because there's such a contradiction.
They feel they feel they're doing God's work and they're acting in some kind of noble and admirable way, but they don't really seem to appreciate what they're doing.
Well, it's worse than that, because I'm sure if you went and privately spoke to every one of these counselors and said, do you support immigration? They'd say, of course I support immigration. And by the way, so do I.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and say, and by God, we can't build new houses on the burbs. Right. A contradicts B. And yet these counselors will refuse resolutely to confront their contradiction between avid support for immigration, which I have too, and their refusal to acknowledge that we have to build a lot of new housing. Now, they try and fudge it, and I think they're being dishonest. Oh, we're going to do it through intensification. Well, good luck to that. I don't believe you can. Empirically, factually, I don't believe there's enough places in the existing neighborhoods to build that kind of volume.
Yeah, plus then you get the howls and screams because, what if a building, for example, this happens all the time in your ward, actually. What if a building along Bank Street is, it's zoned, it can't be anything more than 6 stories, but the developer thinks that they can put 9 or 10 stories up. Then you get, it's the end of the world as we know it, something like that.
And so where I'm going with all this is that this bubble we've got in Canada, I argue, has been manufactured, created, constituted, driven by all 3 levels of government. I don't mean that they set out with their policies to say, let's go drive the prices to the roof. Of course not. This is the exhibit A of the law of unintended consequences. I don't believe the governor of the Bank of Canada is sitting there saying, let's drive interest rates down to create a housing bubble. He's doing it because, and the previous governor did, because of the COVID crisis, the pandemic, and the rent controls, demand for rent controls that create rental shortages are not driven by an attempt to drive up the housing prices. They're driven by a misguided belief that if you control the number of rental units, the price of rental units, you will make things better for renters.
Right.
And because they're not strategic thinkers.
Yeah, and how many times were people of the mindset of you and me coming on the radio and say, you're going to rue the day you ever endorse rent control, because what you're going to get eventually, not overnight, but eventually you will get sky-high rents because of limited supply of rental housing, and the stock of that rental housing is going to deteriorate over time.
Yeah.
So what do you hear now from a young renter looking for their first or second apartment in Ottawa? First of all, you won't believe how much they want for it, and you won't believe the condition that it was in. I've never seen anything like it, right? And it's like, well, my gosh, rewind the clock 10 years. That's what we were warning you was going to happen.
For listeners saying, well, why are you talking about rent controls when you were talking about housing prices? Let me connect the dots. When you create shortages, you drive up the price of the rent. When you drive up the price of the rent, renters are saying, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to pay $1,800 a month for this little shack apartment. My God, I can go and own my own house out in the suburbs for only a little bit more than that. In other words,
or maybe less, right?
Shortages in the rental market drive people into the home ownership market.
Yeah.
And so we have the macro, meaning the government at the national level, driving down interest rates to unbelievably low levels, never unprecedented levels. Somebody wrote me an email, made a mistake of writing me an email the other day saying, I don't believe they've never been this low. So, of course, I go and do my research, and I found a graph showing interest rate, Business Insider, showing interest rates back 5,000 years. They've never been this low, ever. Then I went to the Federal, you can say, okay, that's Business Insider, that's a newspaper, a magazine. So I went to the Federal Reserve. That's the central bank of the states. They went back 200 years. Rates have never been this low in 200 years. Then I went to the Bank of England. They went back to 1500, and they've never had interest rates this low since 1500. So we've got interest rates that are at a level never, ever before this low in human history, which incentivize people to borrow because it's so cheap. Then we motivate them by provincial governments driving people out of the rental market by creating shortages from rent controls. And then the triple whammy comes in from municipal councillors saying, let's stop urban growth. You know, that nasty urban sprawl, which of course is the pejorative term for young people and immigrants buying houses out in the burbs. They call that urban sprawl. I mean, I think it's just coded racism, to be quite frank, when people use that term. And I say that very seriously and very deliberately, because we know who goes and buys out these new urban houses, these new tracts in the new suburbs. Councillors know that it's young people and immigrants, and they continue to pejoratively call it urban sprawl. It's closet racism. I really believe that. And then we create shortages of housing. Look, if we dumped, I'm just a thought experiment. Let's say we dumped 1 million new homes, empty new homes onto the market across Canada. Does anybody think these prices would be at this level? It's a supply-demand mismatch.
Of course, yeah.
We've got way too much demand.
Yeah, and plus, so you've outlined, your kind of three factors that you think are contributing to these sky-high real estate prices. Now throw in this kind of black swan event, if you will, this wild card by way of a pandemic, and guess what? I can work from anywhere. Okay, exactly. I don't have to rent an apartment off of Elgin Street.
That's right.
I can do my job for my Ottawa employer from
Charlotte Lake.
Yeah, right. Barry's Bay, whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that, you're right, it is a black swan event because nobody ever thought there was going to be a pandemic and that it would do what it did. And you're right, it is fueling demand for real estate because people want to get out of a crowded little building where they have to take an elevator up and people breathe on them that might have COVID. And so understandably, if I was in a high-rise building downtown, a little 400 square foot or 600 square foot apartment, I would want to get out of there so fast. It would be unbelievable. I'd be stomping on people as they charged out of the building.
Okay. But we only have about a minute left. But I mean, some of it it's crazy what's going. The Globe and Mail and the real estate section is like the most interesting part of the newspaper to read these days.
It is.
North York, okay, North York, not the Upper East Side of Manhattan, like North York, Ontario, okay?
Yeah.
$612,000 over the asking price. I mean, it's a nice house. I sent you the link. I mean, it's a nice 5-bedroom house, but $2.6 million?
$612,000 is
over the asking price.
More than the price of a house once upon a time, but not so long ago.
Over the asking price.
I know,
right?
But
and it was on the market for like 2 days or something.
But Rob, we do know the solution, and I know some councillors listen. Probably all of them listen to your show. We know the solution is in their hands, and they are refusing to act by saying, look, we've got to open up and create substantial new land available for development. And no, I do not consult to any developer whatsoever and have any relationship. In fact, I went after 3 of them 10 years ago in Lansdowne Park, so let's put that out there. My point is, when people say, oh, we can't have the sprawl, urban sprawl, listen, if we're going to bring in 1 million immigrants every 3 years, which I strongly support, we have to accept there's trade-offs. And the trade-off is we have to build lots more houses. And if you don't want to build lots more houses, then come out of the closet and say, I don't want immigrants in this country.
Okay. All right. Look, we'll stop here. When we come back, you point to the consumer confidence. It's such a weird economy that we have right now. Consumer confidence driven by I think the wealth effect of rising real estate values it's creating a wealth effect. So consumer confidence is at an all-time high. The economy's growing again, and yet we're a few weeks away from federal budget day, and it sounds as though on top of everything that's been borrowed and spent, there might be another $100 billion in so-called stimulus. And I want to ask you about that.
They want to stimulate the stimulus.
Okay. When we come back with Professor Ian Lee, Sprott School of Business at Carleton University on the Rob Snow Show here on City News.
I always knew I was going to own my own business, and I've always wanted to have a store. And I sort of figured when the right concept came together at the right time, I would move forward with that plan. And so through doing some environmental initiatives in the restaurant group that I was with prior to opening this store, it just triggered my path towards being more environmentally conscientious and wanting to make more of a difference, and hopefully encouraging, inspiring other people to want to do the same, at which point the idea for All Eco was born. I have some really fun products. I have a really wide spectrum of products. So the things we look for in terms of qualifying products are sustainably made, upcycled, recycled, zero waste, all natural, no harmful chemicals to the environment or to our bodies. We have fun stuff, so really clean burning candles, lots of really natural body care and skin care. I put a real emphasis on Canadian products. I really try to support up and comers, and I always source Canada first. The refill bar is really important to me. It's really huge. I think that's been exciting as well, because I thought it was going to be a real process in convincing people that this is a better way to go. And actually it was just right away there was a built-in affinity towards doing refill, which has been great. We closed, I think, we were closed down by before the second week of March. Just didn't feel we could comfortably or confidently stay open, even though I do sell essential products, in terms of the cleaning. But we just didn't feel we could make a safe space for ourselves or our customers at that time, and especially with the information we had at the time. So we did close our doors, at which point I did not have a website, because that was I hadn't even scheduled myself to have a website at that point. So that was sort of full speed moving towards that and trying to drive the business, at the same time still get myself on the map because I was so new. So during that time, as we were building the website, we were still doing a lot of video shopping and private shopping, online shopping, online phone, text. Any way I could do business, I was doing it. And there was really a nice show of support for my business during that time, which was really, really encouraging. And now, we are fully set up online too.
Opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Back with Professor Ian Lee from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. He's always provocative.
Evidence-based, though.
Evidence-based, okay. April 19th is budget day.
Yes.
Okay, for Canada. 2 years in the making, this budget. And do you think the economy needs to be stimulated? Should this be a stimulus budget on top of everything else it's going to be?
I testified 2 weeks ago before the Finance Committee of the House of Commons of Canada, and I dealt with this very question, very issue. And I said, I can't remember in my life seeing such a disconnect between what the elites are saying about the economy and what the economy is actually doing. You look at the metrics. First off, housing prices. We just talked about it. We're not going to talk about it again. Going through the roof. Consumer confidence going up, up, up. Globe and Mail reports today 17,000 new businesses have been created in each of the last 3 months. You don't create 17,000 new businesses when we're all reduced to eating cat food and dog food because the economy has gone over the cliff and we're all doomed. The narrative from the elites, from the government of Canada, is the economy has failed. Large numbers of people are suffering, extraordinary suffering. And then you look at the data, you look at both the anecdotal data. I go to Home Depot, I could barely get a parking spot the other day, in the middle of the day, by the way.
Oh, yes.
And you look at the house prices, they're just going through the roof. Well, if we're all broke and none of us have any money, then how come house prices are going through the roof and people are buying houses left, right, and center? I'm just asking rude, embarrassing questions about hard data. Then there's the TD Bank. Last week, chief economist said, post-COVID, not post, but because of COVID, since COVID started, we have $200 billion sitting in bank accounts. That's 10% of the Canadian economy. Now, if we were all truly starving, you don't put money in the bank when you're starving. You take the money out and you go buy groceries. You go buy food. And so you just cannot make the argument that large numbers, of the economy have crashed and burned. I wish the finance minister would speak truth to power. We're in what the very distinguished magazine, The Economist magazine, calls the 90-10 economy. 90% of us are doing very well. And you look at the unemployment rate, and guess what? 91% of us are working. 9% are unemployed. And the other 9 or 10% have been devastated. They've been annihilated. I'm talking small business. I'm talking bars, restaurants. So I'm not trivializing them because this is what I get back. I actually get people saying, why are you, paying no heed to those who've been destroyed? I am. I'm saying 9 or 10% of them have been. But not 100% of us. Not 50% of us. 10% of us. And yet you listen to the Minister of Finance or the Prime Minister, and you would think that we're in the Depression of the 1930s. We are not, actually or statistically or actually. And there's no need to stimulate. My line I used, and I like the line, is the Finance Minister and the Prime Minister said they want to do another $100 billion of stimulus. And I said, well, why would you want to stimulate the stimulus? What stimulus? There's $200 billion sitting in bank accounts. The stimulus is sitting there waiting to be spent. Why aren't we spending it? Because we're all waiting to be vaccinated. Most of us are. I'm just doing it too. I'm staying in my house 99.9% of the time. I'm not going out because I haven't been vaccinated.
Right.
When I get vaccinated, when millions of others get vaccinated, guess what? We're all going to go out and start spending our money again. So the key is not stimulating the stimulus. The key is to do a much better job than they have done thus far in ensuring that that vaccine gets rolled out and jabbed into every arm of every living human being in this country. That's going to get the economy really going again. And by the way, it's already going very strongly. It's going to be the roaring 20s.
Do you believe that? Do you buy into that roaring 20s?
Every forecast I've seen is talking 5 or 6% GDP growth. I'm talking without inflation, that's so-called real GDP growth. Those are numbers that the Chinese government would envy. We haven't seen 6% GDP growth, I can't remember, since, I don't know.
Oh, it's a very strange economy. It had to be basically rescued and then you jolted back to life at extraordinary cost to government. which means all of us, $650 billion in added debt, according to one report this week.
But Rob, when this is studied, and there will be many PhD theses written in academic papers, I do believe the record's going to very clearly show that we overdid it, we overshot, and I don't mean by a little tiny bit.
No.
We paid out 150% of the average job losses, more than any other country in the world. We paid out 150%. So if a person was making $1,000, they lost their job, we said, we got to give you $1,000.
But I mean, at the same time, for example, we're having an RV dealer is coming on our program a little later. My producer, David, spoke to the RV dealer yesterday. If it's not on the lot, you're going to have to wait.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Booked out for 2 years.
Boats, you go to the boat dealer. If it's not in the showroom, you're going to have to wait. The CBC, Kate Porter had a story. If you want to get a pool installed, outdoor pool, just forget about it, right?
Forget about it. They're sold out. They're booked out 2 years. You look at these luxury goods, and I mean, cars, you go into Home Depot and you get anything that's just not standard. I mean, I'm not talking screws and screwdrivers, but you want any kind of material, they're stocked out. A lot of, tiles and flooring. I mean, it's not just Home Depot, the other dealers. And so, the supply chains are so tight right now, partly because of COVID, but the point is there's demand. The parking lots are full. And yet here's the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister. If you listen to their language, you would think that Canada is in the Great Depression.
Yeah.
And
the economy needs a kick in the pants to get it going again.
We are not in a depression. Right. $200 billion in bank accounts. Okay, they can say, well, low-income people don't have that money. I quite agree. It's probably over the top 3 quintiles, but that's 60% of the population. And again, I'm not saying don't help those who need help. Of course, let's target. But they want to sprinkle across and stimulate.
Well, yeah,
everybody.
Well, exactly.
And
that's why that's why all this talk to me, and this is something we've discussed in the past, is all this talk that everything has to be universal is so inane. No, it doesn't have to be universal. It should be targeted. It should be means tested.
And it's squandering scarce resources that could be used to help those. This is why I'm so opposed to universal pharmacare, universal daycare, which is giving free drugs or free daycare to high-income.
Well, I mean, the Ford government has this plan, $400, right, for parents, for children less grade 12 and under. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could be the CEO of Hydro One and get that money.
Yeah. Or a senior person in the government of Canada, a deputy minister making $350,000, or a medical doctor making $1 million.
University professor living in the Glebe.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Probably a few of those.
That's right. We should be targeting all our social programs to those who need help, and not give it to the let's be clear, the base of the Liberal Party and the NDP, which is the wealthiest postal codes in Canada, in the urban neighborhoods where the incomes are highest. And there is, for those, I have done the research on this very quickly, Rob. It's fascinating. If you look at all the wealthy postal codes, I'm talking Rosedale and
wherever they still get their mail actually delivered to the house.
The places where they still get home delivery with the highest house prices in Canada, they have the highest incomes. And then you go look at the map of Canada, the electoral map, and those ridings in the downtown urban core of the major cities are there's just no conservatives. They are Liberal or NDP or Green. And so there's a very peculiar thing that nobody talks about in this country, that our wealthiest neighborhoods are represented by people, by the most progressive parties. And the rural and the urban, the rural is overwhelmingly conservative, and they have the lowest incomes, and the suburbs is a split by and large between the Liberals and the Conservatives, where the incomes are modest. But the wealthiest neighborhoods and the wealthiest postal codes and the wealthiest parts of the cities across Canada are represented by progressives. They represent the rich and the powerful people.
Gotta go.
Yes.
Talk to you next week.
Okay.
Keep fighting the good fight.
Oh.
Bye-bye. Professor Ian Lee, Sprott School of Business, Carleton University. You just wind him up and you let him go. Talkback Hour is coming up next. We're talking vaccines. 750-1310. A few questions for you. Hope you'll engage in the conversation here on the Rob Snow Show, Rogers TV, and City News.
1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, March 30th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 3 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 5. And here's what's making news this hour. Prime Minister Trudeau and Ottawa Mayor Watson toured a vaccination clinic in the capital today. The country set to receive a major vaccine delivery, but questions swirl around new restrictions for the Astrazeneca shot. Here's City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney.
I'd shake your hand, but we're not supposed to. No, here we go. Bump elbows. There we go.
The Prime Minister made a brief visit to a vaccination clinic, thanking staff for their hard work and speaking with people receiving the shot, even shadowing one man as he went through the process. The trip is meant to ease any hesitation about vaccinations, but it comes before a news conference in which the Prime Minister will no doubt be asked about the growing concerns with the AstraZeneca vaccine. Just yesterday, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization recommended provinces not give the shot to people under the age of 55 for the time being due to concerns about blood clots in the younger population. Today, Canada is expecting 1.5 million AstraZeneca doses to arrive from the United States. A poll conducted before this development shows Canadians were already wary of the AstraZeneca vaccine, with just 53% of people trusting it, compared to 82% for Pfizer and 77% for Moderna. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News Time, 10:02. There has been a massive increase in COVID testing for children. The CEO at CHEO, Alex Munder, tweeting they have gone from about 150 children a day through the month of February to 800 yesterday. So many booked tests for their children, there were no more spots available. There is also testing available for your child at the drive-through center at the NAC as long as that child is at least 10 years old. Now your forecast. Here's meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Sun and cloud for us today with a gusty south wind will climb to 16 degrees. Tonight, cloudy near 9, and tomorrow a change. Periods of rain, not quite as warm, the high near 11. For today, the high 16.
And right now in Ottawa, it's 3 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 5. And the OPP says a 44-year-old Carleton Place man wanted has been located. Police tweeting this morning the 44-year-old was wanted in connection to an attempted murder during a home invasion in Carleton Place over the weekend. He was taken into custody without further incident. Lanark OPP officers were called to a house between Bridge and James Street around 10 o'clock Saturday night. Now, shots had been fired inside the home. While there were injuries, the police say they were not related to the gunshots. The Ottawa Mission is back on track and offering critical services to those in need after outbreaks hit the entire shelter system just earlier this year. City News reporter Alex Gouge with the details on this story.
Mission CEO Peter Tilley says the shelter was able to resume normal pandemic operations after outbreak status and lockdown was lifted. This allows the mission to resume offering services and accepting new users. Tilley tells me the mission is offering shots each week to those entering the shelter system.
We did 25 clients this Friday, so we're going to carry on with the vaccination program for those who come in new under our roof.
Tilley adds a team of professionals, which includes a nurse practitioner, is helping smooth out the vaccination process at the mission. Alex Gouge, City News.
City News Time, 10:04. An update on the story we brought you yesterday afternoon. New York City police investigating after an elderly Asian American woman was attacked by a man. It happened in broad daylight.
Surveillance video shows a woman walking down a Manhattan street when she is suddenly accosted by a man who kicks her to the ground and then repeatedly kicks her in the head. The NYPD says the man made anti-Asian statements during what it calls a hate crime assault incident. Paramedics took the 65-year-old victim, who suffered what authorities called a serious physical injury, to NYU Langone, where she is in stable condition. The owner of the building where the assault happened said it suspended staff who witnessed the attack and are seen on video not intervening or offering aid. Brian Clark, ABC News, New York.
And I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
Like the COVID Chronicles today. Okay. I've asked you these questions before. I want to get an update on kind of where the audience is this morning. Have you had a vaccine? One dose, even one dose of vaccine. You know, about, what is it, about 88, 89% of us had not even had one dose of vaccine yet. It's going that well. If you have had one dose of vaccine, how did that come to pass? Tell me all about it. I'd love to hear about it at 750-1310. Or do you know someone who has had even one dose of vaccine? I'd love to hear about it. What was the circumstance? How about this? Do you know anyone who is actually one of those lucky few Canadians who has had 2 doses of vaccine and is now fully vaccinated? How did that happen? How did that happen? 2 doses of vaccine. And because of the news of the last 24 hours, I do want you to imagine this scenario and tell me how you would react to this scenario. Okay? The time comes for your vaccine, okay? Your dose, okay? It's your turn to get a shot. First dose. And you turn to the person, public health nurse, whoever, and you ask the person, what vaccine is that? Is it the Pfizer vaccine? Is it the Moderna vaccine? Is it the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? Or is it the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine? And the person turns to you and says, it's the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine. What would you do? What would you do? Would you do nothing? Would you say, I don't really care what vaccine it is. Just give me the darn shot. I've been waiting so long. I don't care if it's AstraZeneca. I don't care if it's Pfizer or Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. Just give me whatever you have. I just want some protection from this COVID-19. Okay? Would you say, well, begrudgingly, I guess, get the shot? Begrudgingly. Okay, it's not my first choice, but I suppose it's better than no shot at all, and I'll take my chances. I'd rather have the Pfizer, but you don't have any, and I'd rather have the Moderna, but you don't have any. Give me whatever you got. Okay, it's AstraZeneca. I guess beggars can't be choosers, and I'm kind of begging here. Or would you? Nuclear option is no thanks, right? I'll get up and walk out. I will wait. I will wait. Call me when I can get specifically the Pfizer or the Moderna or the Johnson & Johnson. I specifically do not want the AstraZeneca shot. Would you have the audacity to even say such a thing? Because of all the bad news coverage and all the changing advice about the AstraZeneca vaccine. That's why I couldn't believe what Doug Ford said. Let's repeat this, the first part here, okay? It includes the reporter's question about the changing advice on the AstraZeneca vaccine if it's eroding public confidence, and you won't believe what the Premier said. Yes.
To get back to Christina's question about vaccine hesitancy and the AstraZeneca use being suspended on people under 55, you just said that you wouldn't hesitate to cut the use of it if it's necessary.
Yeah.
Isn't this going to add in an extreme way to hesitancy of people to get that vaccine, whether they're over 55 or under 55?
Yeah, again, we got updated just late last night, probably about 10, 11 o'clock at night, and the federal government will be in full discussions, as we have been since yesterday and today, to see the direction of which way we're going to go with this. But if there's any issues below 55, I won't hesitate to just say enough. I'd rather wait. It means a month or 2 months for Pfizer and Moderna and J&J, then roll the dice on this AstraZeneca.
I'd rather wait than roll the dice on this AstraZeneca. And then the reporter asks, are you saying that people who have already received the AstraZeneca rolled the dice?
So people that have gotten that vaccine already, have they rolled the dice?
No, not at all. I'm talking about 35 years of age, and that's where they see the problems. They don't see it 55 plus. The guidance from the federal government is it is safe for people over 55. I'm talking about younger people taking it 35 years of age.
All right.
And in that range.
All right, gotcha. Okay. Not your finest moment, Mr. Ford.
No.
No, it wasn't. Eric, good morning, Eric.
Morning, Rob.
Yes, sir.
So, I can speak with some authority here. I obtained a spot for myself and my wife yesterday, in early April.
Okay.
For the first shot.
Okay. Yep.
In speaking to a public health nurse yesterday, she has indicated that the doses that are being given out at the area in the center I'm going to are Pfizer and Moderna, so not a biggie.
Not a big one. Right. Okay.
To your question.
What if they said it was AstraZeneca though?
To your question, I would say absolutely, I will not take it.
You wouldn't take it.
And I will get back. It took me an hour to get in line, right?
Right.
So I will get back in line so I can get a vaccine that I trust.
Oh,
Pure and
okay.
simple.
Wow. Okay.
There's no wow. If I've waited a year for it, what's another month?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you put it in perspective.
Right.
So, and in terms of the NACI advice,
yes,
this just bothers me. It just drives me up the frickin' wall. The NACI is an advisory group. It recommends and advises. It's up to Health Canada.
Yeah.
To either take it and run with it, or ignore it and just get on with it. And that's where the federal government is just abdicating its responsibility as a regulator and as a policy developer.
Well, even to this day, Health Canada says safe for use in all Canadian adults.
Well, and you know what?
None of this over 65 or under 55. None of this stuff.
That is the regulator.
Yeah.
So, they're standing by their original assessment, which I expected they would. But the original assessment, Rob, remember, was good to up to 55, not over. And there was a reason for that. The reason for that is because there's just precious little data above the age 55. I think there are. When I took a look at the numbers this morning, it's about like 650 people that they looked at. A third of those were in the placebo group. So you've got roughly 400 people that actually got the shot in the series. And these were 450 healthy people. These were not people that had morbidities or comorbidities. So when they originally made their decision, okay, up to 55, I bought that. Now what it seems to me what they're saying is, okay, well now we've got data for under 55s, blood clots issue. So we're not going to give it to under 55. We'll give it to the over 55s. And to me, that's a blatant experimentation on seniors without informed consent. I'll use Mona Niemer's words. This is blatant experimentation without prior informed consent on seniors.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. To Gatineau. Diane Gatineau. Good morning. Morning, Diane. You're on City News.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good, Diane. Thank you.
Good. Yes, I had my shot yesterday.
You had a shot. Okay, good for you. Yeah.
And it was a Moderna shot.
It was a Moderna shot. Okay.
I was very thankful.
You were? Okay. What if they had said it was an AstraZeneca shot? What would...
I would have said, I think I want to come back another time.
But would you have, or would you just... Really? Would you have done that time?
I was kind of worried.
You were? Okay.
Yeah, I was really worried.
Is that why you made a point? Did you make a point of asking, or did they point that out to you?
I asked.
You asked? Okay.
Yes, I did. And they said, no, it's Moderna today.
Okay.
And I think they had an announcement later on, as I was waiting after my shot, that they were not giving AstraZeneca, that they were giving the Moderna at that place.
Right.
So,
okay.
So everybody was,
and that
I guess,
kind of put your mind at ease, did it?
Oh, yes, it did.
It did. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. And seriously, you would have maybe rescheduled. You would have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
really?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm really worried about that one.
So, and this, again, was it somewhere in Gatineau, I guess, was it?
Yes, it was.
Community
It
center?
was in Palais du Congrès.
Okay, all right.
No, and it went very well.
That's good.
And it was very well organized, and they were very informative, and then they
Well,
did a great job.
maybe sometime you'll be allowed out of the house past 9:30 at night. Who knows?
Well, maybe.
Right?
You never know.
So when do you get your second shot?
In July.
In July, right?
Yes, by then we'll probably not be immune anymore.
Well, in the United States, the expectation is the United States will achieve herd immunity by the end of July.
Oh.
Yeah. And if you're in New York City and you're 30, you can get a shot now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they're
30
more
years
advanced
old.
than we are.
Yeah. They're way ahead of us. Ahead of us. Most of our seniors are not getting their second shot until sometime in July.
Yes, and I hear that now they're not booking anyone in Ontario when they're 70 and over.
But if it was AstraZeneca, you might not even have that dose yet. You might have got up and said, no, I'll wait.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. All right. There's that much concern. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there's 2 calls so far. And 2 people are like, AstraZeneca, maybe I will wait. I really want to pick up on this at 750-1310 as we make our way through the hour here on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
It's a space that needs to be lived in. It's a space that people, have to have an experience of more than just art on the walls. I think, yes, the art on the walls is fun, and it's fun to walk around and see all the beautiful things, and the way Dominic and Edith have curated the gallery is certainly something worth seeing. But coming by and asking questions, again, to Dominic's point of view is, interrupt him, ask questions. I'm here on most of the days too. We have Luce that comes in, Nancy that comes in. So yeah, we have quite a few opportunities for people to come in and see the process, and of course ask a few questions. It's a great space. Basically, the one event that we did do is the jazz shows, the jazz and blues shows. And I think the weird thing to let you know is that the acoustics in here are really amazing. I think that was the first thing that blew me away when we started doing shows, or when I was helping out with the shows. The other part of the business too is we do rent it out for special occasions too. So a few weddings, birthday parties, product launches, that kind of thing. So they're also a lot of fun. We do have one artist that's from the States, but of the 30 odd artists, the rest are from either Quebec, Ontario, and one beautiful woman from BC. It's definitely part of the philosophy to maintain and canvas and show the beauty that we have in our backyard. You have the very, very strong personalities in Edith and Dominic, of course. It's wonderful to see how that actually balances out in the rest of the gallery. Without necessarily being, an objective, we basically have half female artists and half male artists in this gallery. But I can't say it's anything more than choosing the best people, and that's just the way it is. And I love that. I think it's great. You go through and you're like, wow, it's all pretty cool. And yep, it's half are women and half are men. It's cool. Like everyone else, we didn't know what to think, right? It's overwhelming at first. You just know that things are closed. And now you're trying to figure out what you do during that downtime, which I think everyone did. And I think in March, the first close, the first shutdown, it was a lot of actually recuperating and resting and not worrying too much on the spot. It's running a gallery is a bit like running a marathon with sprints. So there comes a time where, it's actually nice to just take a break. And then you wake up and realize that, okay, now it's time to wake up and deal with this new reality. From my perspective anyways, I think a gallery can be overwhelming, and I like to make it fun. So you're going to come in, I'll ask you questions, I might even joke around with you. The most people come here, they're not really going to buy art, but they could have a fun time and talk about it, right? And one of the things the gallery does offer is for local purchases, we'll be happy to drive it to your house and hang it for you.
On the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
New case numbers are in. Ontario-wide, we're well above 2,000. Ontario-wide, the number today, 2,336 Ontario-wide. And the number for Ottawa, yesterday's number was 180-something. It was near a record. Numbers that we haven't seen since the worst of it. And it's not a great number today. It's 144, which, again, is on the high side. And for the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, which moved into the red zone just yesterday, Cornwall, Hawkesbury, that area, United Counties, 23 is the number for today, in case people are wondering. So we're talking about vaccines. Have you had one dose? Are you one of those rarities? You've actually had 2 doses of vaccine. How did this all come to pass? And again, imagine this scenario. Just given all the news recently, okay? I'm not here to fearmonger or anything, but look, you have to deal with the world as it is. Let's say you're about to get the shot, okay? First shot. You ask the person giving you the shot, what vaccine is it? And they say it's the Astrazeneca vaccine. What do? Do you do nothing? Just give me the shot. I just want to know what it is. For my own information, I really don't care whether it's AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. I just want some protection. Would you kind of like, oh, is that all you have? You don't have any more back there? Can I see your manager? Tell me you have something else back there other than the AstraZeneca shot. And if they say no, okay, just give it to me anyway. Give it to me anyway. It's not my first choice, but give it to me anyway. Or would you, as some of our callers have already said, say no thanks, I'll reschedule. I don't want that particular vaccine. I would prefer one of the others. 750-1310, 750-1310. David, Ottawa. David, good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Yes, David.
I haven't had a shot yet.
Not yet. How old are you?
I'm turning 70 this summer.
Okay, so shouldn't be too long now then.
No,
okay.
I'm getting close to my turn.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. When the AstraZeneca first came out, I had some questions, especially, the hesitancy coming out of Europe and stuff. But we were being assured here in Canada that, the best shot, when you ask what's the best shot to have, well, the best shot is the first one you get offered.
The one that's available.
Yeah, they're all good. Take the first one you get. You got to get a shot.
Yeah.
Now, I asked.
Do you still feel that way? Do you feel that way?
Here's what happened. I asked my doctor about a month ago what his opinion was, and he said get one of the others, the Pfizer or the Moderna. So I said, okay. So I asked him again, just again on Friday, just before the news broke over the weekend, and I asked him again, and he said the same thing. He said, I'd rather that you take, David, the Moderna or the Pfizer for the weekend break out there. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take his advice. If he says that to me twice,
right,
and now all the stuff that's come out of there, I'm waiting for one of the others.
You'll wait for one of the others.
I
okay.
certainly
all right.
will. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, David.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Up next is on the Rob Snow Show, Debbie in Bell's Corners. Debbie, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Rob.
Hi, Debbie.
I have my little story about Pfizer, and I know 3 people in the same family, immediate family, that were vaccinated fully on a timely fashion as they were supposed to be according to the Pfizer recommendations.
Right.
In the month of January.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they're all 3 fully vaccinated.
Lucky them.
Very lucky them.
Happened in Canada?
Very, very. Happened in Canada.
Oh, really?
Happened here in Ottawa.
Here in Ottawa.
And in a small town south of Ottawa.
Oh.
And the person that got it, that's my friend, the closest friend, was absolutely so surprised, especially with everything going on now, that this actually happened and that 3 people in their immediate family are all vaccinated fully.
Wow.
And within in the time frame given by
How did that happen? I
think it was just a fluke. It was a fluke.
A fluke. Okay.
Yeah, it just
Are they all 90?
They could go out and buy a lottery ticket.
No. Okay. I don't understand how that could happen, though. 3 people all in the same family, all...
Yeah. No, I mean,
Is it something to do with long-term care or something? Or?
One was long-term care.
Right.
The other one was of the age group.
Okay.
And the other one worked in a home. And when I say
see.
one was in a long-term care, one worked in a home.
Right.
And the other one was
And the other one was
age. They're not even in the same city.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
One's in Ottawa.
And they're all fully vaccinated, all in the same family. Wow. Wow.
Yep, fully vaccinated.
I don't even know one person in my immediate circle. I don't know one person who has had even one shot.
They're the only ones I know. Now, I took my mother on the 18th of March because she's in close to 90, and she went and she had Pfizer.
Right.
But she's not getting another shot until July sometime.
Right, yes.
And I don't believe we know the time yet. We're going to get an email or something.
Okay. Have you had a shot yet?
No, I haven't.
No?
I'm just below the 70.
Right, okay.
And, I do have my thoughts on what I'm going to do.
Yeah, so what if you're there? You've made it. It's your day. Debbie, it's your day. Okay? You're at the community center in Bell's Corners or wherever you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
And you ask and they say it's AstraZeneca. What are you going to do?
I will rebook.
You would rebook. Okay.
Yes, I would have no problem with it. I'll just wait. I've been waiting this long.
Right. Okay.
I think I can wait till I can make a decision I'm going to be safe, that it's safe enough. But I also have no intention of taking Pfizer or Moderna unless that second dose is given in the timely fashion.
You don't want to wait 4 months.
I'm not waiting 4 months because I've been listening to Mona Nemer, and I happen to agree with her. You know, the efficacy rate drops so drastically when you wait that long for your second shot. Why am I bothering? I can just continue to do what I'm doing, which, I mean, I'm retired, and I'm not isolated. I'm not any of those things that might push me towards the other way.
Right.
So I will wait. No, I'm not doing it for them.
Okay. All right,
because
thank you.
That's Justin Trudeau's crazy, stupid mess up. And I'm not making him look any better at the risk of my health.
Okay. All right, Debbie. Thank you. Thank you. Very, very good call. Very interesting. 750-1310, 750-1310. Not a single person, it's so discouraging. Not a single person so far has said, I don't care, just give it to me. Whatever you have, just give me. I'll roll up my sleeves and just give it to me. I don't care if it's AstraZeneca, Pfizer, Moderna, J&J, whatever. Just give me whatever you got on the shelf, Doc. 750-1310, halftime on the Talkback Hour here on City News.
Local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, March 30th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 6 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 9. And here's what's making news this hour. Amid growing concern about case counts of COVID-19, the province is reporting another 2,336 cases today, along with 14 more deaths. Now, 144 of these new cases are in Ottawa, 23 in the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, 1 new case in Renfrew, and the Leeds Grenville Lanark Health Unit is reporting 7 new cases today. As the country is set to receive 1.5 million doses on loan from the states of the Astrazeneca vaccine today, the Prime Minister and Ottawa's mayor toured a vaccination site this morning. Both Justin Trudeau and Jim Watson thanked staff for their hard work. Trudeau's appearance was to ease concern over the AstraZeneca shot in particular. That has been recommended now for only those who are at least 55 years of age. It's expected he will be asked about that subject later this morning during a regular media briefing. There's been a massive increase in the number of COVID tests for children in Ottawa. The CEO of CHEO, Alex Munter, tweeting out that they have gone from about 150 a day through the month of February at Brewer Park, the testing center for children there, to 800 tests yesterday. So many booked tests for children, they ran out of spots. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
I remember the good old days when Canada was accused of being a vaccine hoarder. Remember those good old days, Dave?
Seems like only yesterday.
Yeah, we were the vaccine hoarders, the bad boys of the vaccine procurement world. We had too much of the stuff. We had so much vaccine, you couldn't swing a cat without someone who was vaccinated 3 times.
Vaccine coming out our eyeballs.
Yeah.
Big meanies.
Now it's all you can do to get shots into 70-year-olds before the first week of April. Meantime, in New York, if you're 30, you can get a vaccine today. 30 years old, you can get a vaccine today. And I love it that Canadians are worried that Americans may come across the border. Yeah. It's the Americans who should be worried, ladies and gentlemen. Right? And now, for good measure, we have this AstraZeneca fiasco. And I mean, it's a terrible turn of events. We have ordered, by the way, the original order was 20 million doses from the manufacturer, 20 million doses. And then, you remember, we went begging. Please. Prime Minister Modi, Justin here from Canada. Please send us some AstraZeneca, please, Prime Minister Modi. And the government was kind enough to oblige. Government of India, by way of the Serum Institute, and they were supposed to, eventually, I think it was 2 million doses came from the Serum Institute. So then you're up to 22 million doses. Okay, then we raided the COVAX cupboard. That was kind of a mini scandal for a couple of days. Remember that? Trudeau shamed the country. Remember, COVAX is supposed to help the poorest countries of the world get vaccines, not help the richest countries in the world hide their own incompetence. And that was another 1.7 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine, 23.7 million doses in all. And then about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, Joe Biden came to Justin Trudeau's rescue, and the United States would send us 1.5 million doses. Could arrive today, 1.5 million doses. AstraZeneca vaccine, all told, 25.2 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, eventually destined for Canada. But who are you going to give it to if nobody wants it? We have all kinds of mixed messaging and flip-flopping by all kinds of people who are supposed to be in the know. It's just so terribly sad. It's so terribly sad. And are we really in a position in this country where we're trailing our peer countries to be limiting who gets what shot? In case you've been living under a rock for the last 18 hours, AstraZeneca now not recommended for Canadians under the age of 55 According to the ever-changing geniuses at NACI, National Advisory Committee on Immunization, don't use it in people under the age of 55. In case you're wondering how many Canadians are under the age of 55, it's about 33 million Canadians are under the age of 55. And we have vaccine hesitancy a problem, let alone all the Looney Tunes who are just outright anti-vaxxers. How many Canadians would refuse this vaccine now if they were offered it? And Premier Doug Ford, just play the part of the first question there where he says, I would wait.
They just say enough. I'd rather wait. It means a month or 2 months for Pfizer and Moderna and J&J than roll the dice on this AstraZeneca.
And let's play the answer to the second question. Okay, Mr. Premier, are you saying people have already had the AstraZeneca vaccine? They've rolled the dice?
No, not at all. I'm talking about 35.
Premier of Ontario.
I'd rather wait.
What kind of talk is that?
Not at all.
Same day, the Minister of Health was getting her first shot of, the AstraZeneca vaccine. NACI, don't use it on people under the age of 55. At least that hadn't been happening in Ontario anyway. It was only going into people over the age of 60. But man, oh man. In early March, NACI said don't use the vaccine on people over the age of 65. 2 weeks later, totally reverses itself. Totally different position. Forget what we said 2 weeks ago. Our bad. Go ahead, use it on people over the age of 65. In Quebec, they said, yeah, we've been doing that anyway. We ignored you the first time. And now here we are 2 weeks after the reversal. We're back to a different kind of reversal in a different kind of age group, and it's don't use it in people under the age of 55. So, gee, I wonder why confidence is eroding. But if you're 56, I'm sure it's just fine.
No.
This is a story, Canadian Press, that appeared at ottawa.citynews.ca, our website. Quote, Health Canada is reassuring Canadians the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is safe and effective, even as it works to add a warning about blood clots and reacts to a new controversy over the company's preliminary data results in the United States. The vaccine is once again in a negative spotlight over accusations within the United States the company's preliminary trial results were misleading and reports it might cause a rare type of blood clot in the brain in a very small number of patients. Health Canada's chief medical advisor, Supira Sharma, said the U.S. trial issue hasn't affected Canada's authorization. So you have NACI, says one thing, Health Canada. Do they even sound like they even talk to each other over there? At this point in time, we of course believe that the benefits of the AstraZeneca vaccine continue to outweigh the risks, said Dr. Supriya Sharma, chief medical advisor for Health Canada. Who calls the shots on the shots? NACI, 3 different positions in a month. No wonder people don't know what to think. Richard, Orleans. Good morning, Richard.
Yes, I'm calling because my wife and I are in our early 70s.
Yeah.
The positive side is I phoned yesterday, and within 20 minutes I got an appointment for April 3.
Good.
And the second one for July 24th. However, my wife phoned, and they said there was something wrong with her OHIP card. When she asked what it was, he said he wasn't at liberty to tell her and hung up.
Oh.
So then she phoned back again, and she got the same result. So she phoned Ontario Services to check out her OHIP card. They assured her it was fine. So she called back again.
Yeah.
This time they said, your OHIP card is okay, but we have no more appointments.
Oh, man.
You know.
Holy cow.
Anyway, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that called you a while back and said I'm a good Canadian that stayed in Canada, and 6 couples I know flew to the States, and a month ago they got both shots already.
So they're fully vaccinated now.
Oh yeah. And they're coming back in mid-April, I guess.
Right.
So how much do you think I'm frustrated about the whole situation?
So Saturday is your appointment, right? This Saturday.
That's right. And no, I would not. I'm going to ask, and I'm not taking the AstraZeneca.
You wouldn't take it.
Well, no. I mean, blood clots in your brain. 9 countries have stopped using it.
I mean, this advice is under 55, right? You're 70, so.
Yeah, I know, but before that, they wouldn't give it to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Because I'm over 65.
That's right.
And now they're going to give it to me, but not people under 55.
Right. So you'd rebook. You would rebook. You'd wait.
Well, certainly.
Yeah.
Now the other thing I want to say is that here's Trudeau and Watson going around to vaccination clinics and trying to boost their morale. Now, how could you believe anything that Trudeau says? I mean, he's lied openly a number of times. Once, right on national TV about the Wheat scandal, which he said they were not my friends.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, if a guy lies like that and he's going around to booster it, and it makes him appear as if he's the one that's setting up all these vaccination clinics. The only thing he's good for is to acquire the vaccines, and he can't even do that. You know, and here's a situation again. By July 24th, is my vaccination going to still withstand that?
Right. Yeah.
It's not 21 days.
Yeah.
It's 4 months.
Yeah, the 4 months. Yeah.
I mean, it's a really frustrating
It's
situation.
very frustrating, yeah.
And meanwhile, Trudeau's high in the polls. I mean, I don't get it.
Well, leading in the polls, none of them are really high in the polls, but
leading, but he's in a majority situation.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Which would kill our country if he got through.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get too off topic and get into election politics. That's a discussion for another day, Richard. But look, I hope it all works out for you. I hope call me next week if. And let me know how everything went, okay?
Yeah, because I certainly won't take the AstraZeneca.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Richard. Bye-bye. Bye. To Alta Vista, Doug.
Good morning.
Yes, Doug.
Good morning.
You're on the air, sir. Go ahead.
So, yes, I understand everybody's pretty frustrated, but my wife and I did our thing on Sunday, March 28th, and arrived at City Hall. The guy in the parking level told us where to park. We got in the elevator, went to the first floor. The girl told us where to sit in line. She came back in about 2 minutes and said, okay, you can go in now.
Yep.
And when she found out that we had appointments about an hour and a half apart from each other, she said, never mind, go in as a couple. We did that. The system was so smooth. The longest thing was waiting to get out, because after the shot, you have to wait. But it was an excellent process.
Good.
And I can't say enough about it. But I understand that people are very frustrated with what's happening.
Well, do you know what shot you had, sir?
Pfizer.
Okay. What if they had said it was AstraZeneca? Would you have gotten it? Would you take it anyway?
Both. I think both of us would have gotten the AstraZeneca because we're late 70s.
Right.
And I'm not too worried about it. We don't have any medical conditions that are compromised.
Right.
So I go ahead with it. But having that, I think that shot is going to be fine. We're going to have more information, find out about it, and it's going to be flipped again as a recommended or not recommended.
Okay. All right. So when do you get your next dose then?
July 18th.
July 18th. Okay. All right.
And that's the thing we're not comfortable with, is that long window of wait time.
Right.
Now, that's the system now. They could turn around in 2 months and say, we're going to shorten that window and send us an email, I suppose, and say, now your appointment's on July the 1st or June, whatever.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed maybe they can speed that up for you.
Yeah, but the people at the city site, it was excellent.
I'm glad to hear that.
Excellent.
Good. Thanks, Doug.
A long wait
to
get to the city, but it was excellent.
Okay. Good stuff, Doug. Thank you. Be right back with the final quarter of the Talk Back Hour. Talking vaccines again this morning, going through and getting your reaction to all of this Astrazeneca vaccine news, which is not encouraging at all based on the feedback I'm getting from the audience this morning. This is the Rob Snow Show, City News.
When it came to opening the business, because I was so young, there was a lot that I didn't know about management, financial management, management of people, all around management, I think is the word that I always come back to. I think that I always had a passion and I knew that I wanted to create a space for people to get their hair done, but I had no idea, even having studied business management, what it really took to open a business as well as sustain a successful business. So in 2014, I was actually working with Angela Sutcliffe. She was my business coach at the time, and she was like, what's your niche? Like, what separates you from other salons? And when we started to really dig, it was the curls. It was the fact that we work with all curl types, curly, kinky, wavy, coily, which is how we identify our curl types. And then you have straight hair as well, of course. But you know, more than 70% of the world has some sort of curl pattern to their hair. And we just realized that that was not being addressed. It wasn't something we learned about in school. So I went to the States and I traveled all over to kind of gain the information that I have now to be able to share it with our clients and as well as with other stylists. So in March when it came, I thought it was gonna last, a week, 2 weeks, through, I think it started off at 2 weeks. And I was like, cool, I have 2 weeks to just relax, that's fine. So I was actually in a position where I was not happy, so to say, but I was a little bit happy, to be honest, just because of what I was experiencing personally. Now, when that extension started to happen, it was not a great feeling. It was very uncomfortable not knowing how I was going to support myself financially. So I'm so excited about the Academy. It's something that I started and I launched it during the pandemic. So I've been teaching for a number of years. I've been educating for a number of years. I educated at Algonquin. I've educated at Versailles Hair Academy. And I've also educated in my own space, in this space and my old space up on Greenbank. And so it was just a continuum of what, I've been doing for these years. When we have a client in our chair, it's not just about making your hair look great. It's about how do you go home and take what we've just taught you and emulate that. So now with a world where people want to quote unquote be diverse and inclusive, what does that really look like in a salon setting? And for me, it looks like being able to invite any curl type, any hair type really, because I can take care of straight hair types just as well as, I can take care of curls. And we cater to all curl types regardless of what you look like on the outside, we got you.
Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
I want to get through all of these calls between now and the top of the hour. West End, Gary, you're on City News. Gary, good morning.
Well, good morning, Rob. And yes, I'm the 75-year-old grocery store worker that works nights, and I'm getting my shot this Saturday. And I don't care what it is.
Okay, that's good. Okay, all right. Yeah. Why do you take that opinion, Gary?
Because I am desperate to get this shot. I've been begging for it since January, and it's primarily because of my wife's condition. She's compromised immune system, so I really, really want to get it just because of her. She's already had her shot because she's similar to a personal support worker for seniors.
I see. Okay. So, and when are you getting it again? Sunday, you said? Saturday?
Saturday morning at 9:40.
Saturday morning at 9:40. Okay.
The follow-up.
Not that you're counting it down or anything, Gary. Not that you're counting things down. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
The second shot is July the 4th.
On July the 4th. Okay. Yeah. And how do you feel about that? 4 months.
I wish it was sooner.
I bet.
I really do. But hell, if I can get one shot in, that's better than nothing.
Yeah. And all of this news about Pfizer doesn't have you AstraZeneca, doesn't have you second guessing or anything.
No,
like that.
not
Just
at
give
all.
me whatever you got. I don't care.
That's
just
it.
yeah,
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Beggars can't be choosers.
Beggars can't be choosers. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha, Gary. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Good luck, sir. Yeah. Bye-bye. Shelby, Kempville.
Hi there.
Hi, Shelby.
I would take the shot in a millisecond.
And a millisecond, doesn't matter what it is.
No, and I take birth control every single day, and the chances of me getting a blood clot from that are higher than getting it from this.
I read something about that on the internet yesterday. Yeah.
I just think people just want an excuse not to get it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That it's maybe they were hesitant before, and now this kind of gives people an excuse to be hesitant.
And I'm a grocery store worker, so I'm a frontline worker. I would take anything that was given to me right now.
Right.
It's making me so sad to hear all these people saying that they wouldn't take it to protect other people.
Right. Okay. When do you think you will get a vaccine? Is it going to be weeks, months? What do you
I've heard
think?
that grocery store work. I'm only 27, so I'm not.
Okay. Right. But they may set some aside for frontline people like you, right?
Yeah. I've heard that we're in the next phase.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm ready to get it. I would take it. It makes me so sad to hear all these people saying they wouldn't.
Well, there's a lot of worry out there, a lot of fear out there, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, people are saying, I've waited a year. I'll wait another month if I can.
It just gives one more vaccine for me then if people say no to it.
Right.
So
All right, Shelby. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Dave in Arnprior. Good morning up in Arnprior. Dave.
Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Very good.
Good, sir.
I was fortunate to have my first shot last Thursday, which I received Pfizer. And when we went through the drive-thru, we were given a piece of paper saying from Pfizer that we should have our second shot 21 to 28 days.
Yes, yeah. Good luck.
Now the scientific people are saying, yes, that's what we should have.
Yes.
Why? We have these government people are coming out of the woodwork, saying they're professors or professional whatever, saying 4 months is fine to have the second shot. Is this not giving us a very...
Well, there's some mixed messaging going on, certainly. Yeah.
Like we're lab rats, really.
Well, lab rats. I don't know if I go that far, but
we are. The scientific people are saying it's not going to work. Our immune system, when you're over 65, is low, and that's why we have to have it within 28 days.
Right. Okay.
Our government is saying, 4.
Well, why? What do you think is going on, Dave?
I think Trudeau is just trying to make himself look good, and
that it's being done for political reasons and not for health reasons, right?
When you hear one or two scientific people saying yes, it should be done, even Pfizer is saying it should be done 21, 28 days to give us the immune system, or keep our immune system up.
Yeah.
Our government is saying no, because they can't get the supply. So they're going to stretch it to the limit, and in July, or 4 months later, 5 months later, we won't have any...
You're worried how much immunity you'll actually have when you get to that 4 month interval, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, Dave. Thank you. Okay. Where are we? Keith, Shawville. We're up and down the valley. We're on the Ontario side. We're on the Quebec side. We're in the Pontiac right now. Keith, Shawville. Go ahead.
Good day.
Yes, sir.
What I just wanted to say was, do people, when they take their Advil and they take their Leam, that they're running an increased risk of stroke and a heart attack, especially if they're taking a lot of it? Like, how many people are taking Advil for a little headache? And it's incredible, the fear-mongering out there.
Well, I don't know if they're fear-mongering. It's incredible. I wouldn't say fear-mongering. I say fear. There's a lot of fear out there, Keith.
Well, I like to see
Absolutely.
the statistics compared to incidence of stroke. I mean, people are not stopping taking their Advil or their Aleve or some little minor pain.
Right.
But I'd like to see the relationship between the incidence of stroke with that and the incidence of stroke. Like they've been using the Astrazeneca vaccine in England, and they're using it in Australia.
Keith. Why should we really be blaming, say, regular, ordinary Canadians for being afraid, or is the blame on the National Advisory Council on Immunization? It's the one that issued this advice that said, don't use it in people under the age of 55.
Well, I wish they would have come out with a comparison. The communication is so terrible. They should have come out with a comparison and say, look, okay, there's maybe a slight increase, but when you're taking these drugs here, there's
sure,
people overlook that. And I know people are upset because they have to wait 3 months, 4 months for the second dose.
4 months, 4 months.
It's more important that we get everybody at least one vaccine and get this thing under control.
Okay, all right.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that are just sitting back hoping this COVID extends itself because they're getting money from the government. When, we got to get the economy back working. This is crazy.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
stuff. Have an opinion next time you call from Shawville. They're known to be opinionated in the Pontiac. I've heard that about them. Bob, North Grenville.
Hi,
yes,
Rob.
Bob. Yes.
First time caller.
Thank you for calling.
I was, I guess, one of the lucky ones on Monday to get an appointment made in Lanark County.
Okay.
And right now, I think I would take AstraZeneca no problem because I'm fed up with the whole mismatch of information, and I just wanted to get over with it.
Right. Give me whatever you got.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Let's get on with it. Right.
Oh
okay.
yeah. By the time I get my inoculation, it's in the end of April. Everything else is going to have changed, so it might be really good by then.
Yeah, you never know. The way this group NACI changes its mind, who knows what they'll be saying in 2 weeks, right?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
It might be number one with a bullet by then, so who knows? All right. Yeah, good point, Bob. Thank you. And very quickly, we got to be quick. 30 seconds, and I'm getting the evil eye for even giving you that long. Ann in Ottawa.
Good morning.
Hi, Ann.
I have had my first shot.
Oh, that's good. That's good. What vaccine was it, Ann? Pfizer. What if it had been AstraZeneca? Would you have been okay with that?
No, I would have said no, thank you. I'll
Oh, really? You rebook. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Ann. Thank you. That's all the time we have. That's all the time we have, Ann. Sorry. Got to run there. So kind of mixed, all in all. In the response about AstraZeneca, it's very interesting where people are on this. Right there with you. News coming up, and then our guest is... Who is it?
Dr. Sean Wharton.
Dr. Sean Wharton. Yes, opinion piece in the Globe and Mail today. People who are obese should be near the front of the line for vaccines. Obesity, underlying condition that should put you at the front of the line for a vaccine. We'll get into that next on City News.
local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, March 30th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 6 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 9. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Prime Minister joined the Mayor of Ottawa for a quick tour of a vaccination clinic in the capital today. It comes on a day we're expecting a huge delivery of the Astrazeneca shot from the United States, and that shot is facing new restrictions in Canada. City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney with more.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was on hand as people in Ottawa went through the registration process and rolled up their sleeves to get vaccinated against COVID-19.
You don't mind me watching where you get the needle?
The visit is part of a broader effort to ease any vaccine hesitancy, but it comes on the heels of some major developments on the vaccine front. Just yesterday, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization recommended provinces put a pause on giving the AstraZeneca shot to people under the age of 55 due to concerns about very rare blood clots. A new poll has also been released showing Canadians were already wary of the AstraZeneca shot, with only 55% of people trusting it compared to 77 for Moderna and 82 for Pfizer. This news is putting a damper on what should have been a big delivery day in our vaccination efforts. Today we're expecting to receive those 1.5 million AstraZeneca doses from the United States. The Prime Minister and a team of ministers and officials will provide a COVID update in about an hour. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
There's been a massive increase in the number of children being tested for COVID. The CEO at CHEO, Alex Munter, tweeting they have gone from about 150 a day in February at the Brewer Park Testing Center for CHEO to 800 done yesterday. So many booked tests for children, they ran out of spots. There is also testing available for your child at the drive-through center at the NAC as long as that child is at least 10 years old. City News Time, 11:03. Now the forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Sun and cloud for us today with a gusty south wind will climb to 16 degrees. Tonight, cloudy near 9, and tomorrow a change. Periods of rain, not quite as warm, the high near 11. For today, the high 16.
And right now, it's 6 degrees in Ottawa, 9 degrees in Smiths Falls. Recent deaths at the Hawkesbury Hospital under investigation after a doctor was charged with first-degree murder of an 89-year-old man. OPP media spokesperson Bill Dixon tells City News the police force doesn't lay a first-degree murder charge without significant evidence.
If that charge is laid, then our investigators are confident that that is what is appropriate at this point in time, and we'll go from there in terms of whether any more charges are laid.
Now, 35-year-old Dr. Brian Nadler is facing one count of first-degree murder in the death of Albert Poindexter. Dixon says forensic testing is being done on a number of other deaths at Hawkesbury Hospital. A local company recalling how their products are being installed on the Confederation line after originally the company was passed over. Marco Campagna, the president of Hovey Industries, tells the Rob Snow Show they weren't even part of the original procurement process.
The whole procurement process was very peculiar. I've never seen anything like it. We weren't allowed to see the specification to understand, what we were bidding to. And then we found out later in the process, not from RTG, but from one of the subcontractors that we didn't even qualify to bid because the technology they were originally specifying didn't include what we make.
Now, the issue, he said, was that OC Transpo was looking for electric switch heaters. They supplied ones that were powered by natural gas, which he says are more reliable in an Ottawa winter and already in use throughout our city. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
I just noticed a few people that I follow on Twitter. Cam Holmstrom, who's a political strategist, he's with a firm called Blue Sky Strategy, and he's sometimes with us for a segment that we do called Your Political Fix. We'll do that tomorrow, by the way. He just tweeted, just got an email from my daughter's school board asking students to bring home any technology and materials needed for online learning when they leave school April 1st for the Easter weekend. They say it's in case, but here we go again, folks. And then Pataguccione, who's here usually on a weekly basis as well. He's the managing editor of Your Community Voice newspaper. just tweeted, with an increase in positive cases in the community, students and staff of French Catholic schools in Ottawa have received notice suggesting they bring home their computer equipment and other resources ahead of the Easter long weekend. Director of Education Marc Bertrand calls it a preventive measure so that everyone is prepared to switch to remote learning as needed. So, it could be a case of here we go again. Who knows when people will be back in the classroom. Now, meantime, while all of that is going on, I would direct you to the opinion section of today's Globe and Mail. There is an opinion piece there by Sean Wharton, medical director of the Wharton Medical Clinic, adjunct professor, McMaster University and York University, and it's headlined, Why People with Obesity Need Priority Access to the COVID-19 Vaccine. And good morning, Sean Wharton.
Good morning.
Yeah, it's very nice to hear from you, and I thank you so much, Dr. Wharton, for taking the time. I read with great interest your column this morning because you call obesity a disease. First of all, obesity is a disease, which I think some people may have a hard time wrapping their head around. What do you mean by that? Obesity is a disease.
Yeah, that's always the most important and challenging part. Once we get past that, then the entire opinion piece and multiple other aspects of what we're talking about ends up making sense. If you can't get past that, then none of it really makes any sense. Obesity is a disease, just like diabetes is a disease and high blood pressure is a disease. It's a disease because we understand the biological aspects of it. It lives in the brain. It generates hunger and cravings and a drive that is beyond what is needed for the survival in 2021. And that is the definition of a disease when we understand the hormones and the receptors and the biological process that is underlying it.
Okay. So once, as you say, overcoming that obstacle of recognizing that obesity is a disease, and it used to be the same, I'm sure you would agree, Doctor, it used to be the same kind of struggle around addiction, right? People couldn't wrap their head around the fact that addiction is a disease, right?
Addiction and depression. I think depression is something that many of us will remember in the 1960s and 70s. If you said you had depression, things were not going very well. You were made fun of. It wasn't talked about. Now we know it's a neurochemical disease in the brain. It's not you're having a bad day. You're having a bad day. You're having a bad day. Go and get go to a spa. But depression is a medical disease.
Right.
Same way this is. A couple pounds is not the obesity that we're talking about. Obesity is a driven biological disease within the brain neurochemistry.
Okay. Then what makes it important that people suffering from the disease of obesity, why should they be made priority access in the vaccination process?
So priority access is always because you are at the highest risk.
Okay.
So people who are elderly are at the highest risk because they have a lot of comorbid conditions connected to them. They likely have some lung disease. They've been breathing the air on the planet for 80 years, so their lungs aren't perfect. So they get highest risk of the vaccination. Same thing here. People living with obesity have a much higher risk of getting COVID-19, much higher risk of getting into the hospital, and much higher risk of dying from it. They are at higher risk. They need prioritization for the vaccine, just like an elderly person would or somebody with diabetes would.
Okay. So what would be some, for example, say chronic underlying health conditions associated with obesity, comorbidities, so to speak?
The comorbidities. So it's because the inflammation comes from the fat cells. So the fat cells that live in that central area in the belly, not the fat cells on the butt or on the thighs, those don't cause medical problems. The ones in the center area send inflammation throughout the entire body from head to toe, everything from Alzheimer's to cardiac disease, to cancers, to pulmonary diseases, to inflammation within the lungs. So that's why there's a higher risk. Besides the diabetes and the high blood pressure that we normally think about, it's all of the inflammatory conditions affect all organs, and that's what puts you at major risk.
Okay. How do you, what would you use as a kind of a measuring stick. I mean, it's one thing to say, I have cancer or whatever, but how would you actually prove to, a medical official or whoever is, making up the priority access to the vaccinations themselves that someone is obese? Is it simply a body mass index? Is that the standard? Because some people in the medical community don't think that's a very reliable measure of obesity. What do you think, Doctor?
So this is a bit of a tricky one, and I like this question. So the body mass index is what we're using here. Why? Because it's good on a population basis. Okay. If you look at an entire country or an entire region, if the body mass index is up, then there's a good chance that those people are at a elevated risk. Not all of them, but most of them. So if you look at everyone with a BMI of greater than 40, only 5% of those people don't have medical problems. I mean, 95% of them do. So you're pretty sure that there's going to be a problem there. On an individual basis, if you're a doctor and you're looking at your patient, don't look at their BMI, don't look at their weight, look at their blood pressure, look at their blood sugar level, look at their sadness levels or their complications connected with their mental health and weight. Look at them as an individual and address that if it's related to the person's elevated weight. So individually, we look at medical conditions. Population-based, we can look at the BMI because it's a okay marker for that.
Okay, so where is this being prioritized now? People with obesity getting priority access to vaccines. Is this happening in Ontario?
Yeah, so it is happening in Ontario, which is good. It's happening in Ontario and Alberta, and also in Manitoba. So those are the three provinces right now, and I think more are coming on board, and we have it. It's recognized in the states. Many of the states have it as a priority, definitely. So I really think that we should be looking at it throughout the entire country, not just these three provinces. But this is a terrific start.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Absolutely,
for your time.
Welcome.
Yep. Dr. Sean Wharton, Medical Director, Wharton Medical Clinic, Adjunct Professor, McMaster University, York University. 11:14 here. I just want you to hear, this is from the Director for the Centers of Disease Control. Her name, Rochelle Walensky. We're going to listen to this together. Her saying, quote, "I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom," as she held back tears during a briefing yesterday.
Now is one of those times when I have to share the truth, and I have to hope and trust you will listen. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to lose the script, and I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom. We have so much to look forward to, so much promise and potential of where we are, and so much reason for hope. But right now, I'm scared.
Right now, I'm scared. Recurring feelings of impending doom. Impending doom. Impending doom is what she said. Leading voice on pandemic response in the United States. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Rochelle Walensky. About the situation in the United States, where according to the Bloomberg vaccine tracker, they're doing 2.7 million vaccine doses a day. And a quarter of the population, getting close to 29% of the population, has had at least one dose of vaccine. So I would just ask you this morning to reflect, given we had 144 cases in Ottawa today, sometimes the number that's released in the afternoon by Ottawa Public Health is actually higher, and we had 2,300 cases in Ontario today. If that is how one expert in the United States feels about the current situation in the United States, how should we feel here about the current situation with the pandemic? When we are way behind on vaccines compared to our American friends, or we have barely cracked 10% of the population getting one dose of a 2-dose vaccine. Impending doom? It's 11:16.
Well, we all loved our rock t-shirts growing up, right? It was our badge. Hey, we went to this concert. We knew that band inside out. So we kept doing that and kept promoting that. What's sort of happening now is that audience is dying. I always say the earth is flat. So the 60s rockers are falling off the end of the earth. So you don't see as big a sales anymore because my audience is disappearing. What's sort of helping to promote that history is the kids are buying vinyl. And luckily we have a vinyl shop in the neighborhood here, a record center. So what's happening is I've seen kids come in with their dad. And the dad say, hey, do you have any Beatles shirts? Do you have any CBGB? Do you have any of this? I said, well, why? He said, well, because my daughter's into it. She's wearing my T-shirt. So slowly it's coming back, right? The kids are, I think, getting fed up with the generic music that's out there. And they want to click into something that, first of all, links them to their parents, something that they thoroughly enjoy now, and maybe they're passing it on to their grandkids. Pandemic has been a couple of things, definitely hard on everybody. So much messaging that's out there that people don't understand, stats that every day, Jesus Murphy, like I'm getting a headache just reading this stuff, right? So really it was just trying to understand where we were going to go from there. The city of Ottawa all of a sudden said, everybody's got to wear a mask. You got to wear it on the bus. People were scrambling, okay? And I had, the store next door had really big windows, so I just flooded the window with masks. Well, that was the activity that saved the business. People were coming in buying 2, 3, 4 masks at a time at $20 a pop here. But my masks were so different. They were the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Queen, all the pop culture. Everything else out there was medical masks. And right, so people said, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to show my rock and roll. So it became the new T-shirt as far as I'm concerned. Well, what I've done, I'm Hindenburg. I'm now at 1114A Wellington Street, which is next door to the Fab Gear store. And the reason I've changed names, I've rebranded the store, is because I was planning on retiring. And in December, I go, oh, I'm not going to retire. But I've committed to changing what the store is about. So I came up with a new name, Fab Gear's Rock Shop, where legends are dressed. And essentially get that message out. I prefer, if the shirt don't fit, you come in, you try another one on. People like to feel the fabrics with clothing. It's amazing. You'll come in and go, oh, I love that. Oh, can I try this? So that's the big difference. I'm not out to make $1 gazillion. I stick the way I am, old school. I take cash, we take cards. Come on in and talk to the owner.
Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
On the municipal government agenda today is nuclear waste disposal. And they're talking about it at the Environment Committee right now.
Landfills that operate within the city of Ottawa.
That's Scott Moffat.
Be allowed to bring in from other jurisdictions. So thank you, Councillor Brockton. Councillor Meehan.
Thank you very much, Chair. To our guest, Dr. Hendrickson, to your knowledge, is there anywhere else in the world that uses this form of disposal for nuclear or radioactive waste?
Thank you, Councillor Meehan. There are some mounds in the United States on Department of Energy federal sites. Mostly in much drier areas where it's much easier to keep contaminated water out of the environment and keep the waste from being exposed to significant amounts of precipitation. So the United States has done this. Most other countries have not, but of course the proponents of this particular facility have to some extent modeled their facility on some of those U.S. mounds, many of which do not have the variety of types of wastes. For example, there's one in Ohio that only has what they call naturally occurring radioactive materials.
Okay, so this is the Standing Committee on Environmental Protection, Water and Waste Management. And what they're talking about is Canadian Nuclear Labs, better known to you and me as Chalk River, and what to do with the waste produced by that Chalk River lab. And this committee is debating debating a recommendation that has been put forward by Councillor Teresa Kavanagh, who has an opinion piece in the Ottawa Citizen today, and they want to formally oppose what's been proposed by Canadian Nuclear Labs. And depending on what happens at this committee today, it's all eventually to be considered by the full City Council in the middle of next month. Now, there's been a lot of opposition to this. It's been going on for years, 4 or 5 years now. Angela Keller-Herzog is Executive Director, Community Associations for Environmental Sustainability. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent.
I'm good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay.
So I've been following the committee discussion.
Yeah.
And right off the top, I don't know if this is a faux pas, but if I could correct what you just said. The motion that has been tabled for about a month was definitely saying that the city, the council, the city of Ottawa should be looking to oppose this nuclear waste mound and the entombment of the old reactor. But in the very few minutes starting the council meeting, they pulled a switcheroo.
Oh.
So the motion in front of the committee right now is actually having the same whereas clauses that say all kinds of alarming things that don't matter, and then the be it resolved clause has been switched out.
There's been a switcheroo.
And now just talks about some concerns about the shipment of waste and other what I would say sort of side issues. And most of the members of the public who have prepared to their public delegations, they have PowerPoints and they have presentations which are aimed at the old motion.
At the language of the motion. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. It's very good to know this because it's hard to follow this. I've been on the air since 9 o'clock, so I was not aware of the switcheroo. I like your description of that.
I would say most people are actually still like presenting and many of them would not be aware, because if you're just listening loosely, the whereases all sound the same.
Right.
So I would attribute this to the fact that there was a lobby person, a high-level lobbyist from the Canadian Nuclear Labs that made the rounds and then caused this backroom negotiation to change the motion. That's found in the lobby register of the City of Ottawa.
Okay. What are you most concerned about with your organization, about the plans as they are put forward by CNL?
Well, you know something, I think that we should simply say we would like to take a NIMBY position on this. Do we have a choice of having a nuclear waste dump very close to the Ottawa River, which is our main source of drinking water? And there's other options, right? Why store nuclear waste in a way that is so close to the water? The idea is you store nuclear waste in a dry, contained place. So they haven't really looked at all the choices. The private sector coalition consortium, they're trying to cost minimize. They're led by SNC-Lavalin. They have $1 billion contract, and this is their bread and butter, while there are some other parts of their business are having troubles. So I guess the bottom line is, if we have choices, why should we be putting a nuclear waste dump just upriver from where we are when there's other choices?
How far away from the river is it? How far away from the river is it?
About a kilometer.
That's it? About a kilometer?
Yeah, and
Wow.
and the thing is that it's not the case where it's like there's a small risk of a nuclear meltdown. That's not the situation.
No.
This is a long-term situation, and it's virtually certain that with the forces of nature and erosion and water,
right,
the waste mound will deteriorate over time, and these radionuclide particles will enter into the river. And there's a lot of other toxic stuff there. PCBs, arsenic, lead, all kinds of other things.
Nasty business that we don't want in the Ottawa River polluting our source of drinking water.
Yeah, and there's a choice, right? There's a fork in the road.
Put it in the middle of nowhere, away from our drinking water source.
Exactly.
And fair enough.
And also follow international best practice.
I like it that you're unapologetic about the fact that it's NIMBY. That's so rare. But I want to just a little bit more into this switcheroo, because it was rather forceful in the opposition to this, you're saying, in the original wording of the motion, and now all of these delegates have showed up, and they're not really speaking to the spirit of the original motion. Is that what I understand has happened here?
That's exactly it. So a lot of the opponents to the nuclear waste dump are speaking in favor of the old motion. Because they're opposed, and they're saying, hey, let's look at the better alternatives rather than this low-cost SNC Lavalanche solution. And they're not, and also if you prepare a PowerPoint, you have to submit it ahead of time, and then you're locked in to your presentation. So this is like really kind of an unfair jigging of the game.
Well, I thank you for your time this morning, Angela Keller-Herzog. We'll be following it. Thank you.
Thank you for following the issue.
Yep. Executive Director, Community Associations for Environmental Sustainability. We are back right after the news. We're going to talk about what I would call, part of it, I call it the recreation economy, but just the strangeness of the pandemic economy. Liam Hamilton is going to join us. You may hear his company's advertising here on City News. Highbridge construction business, like totally booming, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about how is the home renovation business doing. And Santi Rios is the manager of Primo RV Center. So we've talked ATVs, we've talked about boats, backyard pools, bicycles yesterday with David Sally from the Ottawa Business Journal. What about how's the RV business? Oh, guess what? They're flying off the dealer lots when we come back on City News.
In Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Tuesday, the 30th of March. Good morning, I'm Sarah Buchan. Right now in Ottawa and Smiths Falls, we've got mostly cloudy skies and 10 degrees. Here's what's making news right now. Ontario reporting 2,336 new cases of COVID-19 today and 14 more deaths linked to the virus. Today's data based on over 39,000 completed tests. Public Health Ontario reporting 144 new cases of the virus in Ottawa. Yesterday, the health unit confirmed 184 new cases. In Eastern Ontario, 23 new cases, 7 for Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, 4 in the past 24 hours, and 1 new case in Renfrew County. Those numbers will be updated this afternoon. A new poll suggests Canadians have decided preferences when it comes to COVID-19 vaccines, and that was even before yesterday's announcement about suspending use of the Oxford Astrazeneca vaccine in Canadians under the age of 55. Just 53% of respondents trust AstraZeneca's vaccine, compared with 82% who trust the Pfizer-BioNTech shot, or 77% who trust Moderna's drug. About 1.5 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine are due to arrive in the country from the United States today. Even when long-term care homes did not have COVID-19 outbreaks, a study shows residents received less medical care and had less contact with family and friends. The Canadian Institute for Health Information compared data in Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, BC, and Newfoundland and Labrador from during the first wave of the pandemic to the same period of 2019. It found physician visits fell 16%, and residents who had no contact with friends or family were more likely to be assessed with depression. I'm Sarah Buchan for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
and 1310 AM.
Let's talk about the home renovation boom. Ottawa and the Valley. Liam Hamilton is here, co-owner of Highbridge Construction. Good morning, Mr. Hamilton.
Hi there. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good.
How's business?
Actually quite good. It's been a great year for us.
Yep. Okay. What's hot?
Well,
what do people want? What do people want?
Well, we've had to create a architectural design division because of the demand for additions and extensions to homes, as well as custom homes. So that's an interesting development. But kitchens are also very popular these days, and we've had some basement apartments too that have been a fair amount of leads coming in on that front as well.
Okay, but more room, right?
More room, that's right.
Yeah, and would you say that that's pandemic related? Look, I need a place to work, or what have you, or I'm going to work in this room and the children need somewhere to go. What do you think is going on there, Mr. Hamilton?
I think there's two factors. Certainly the pandemic, and then the dramatic increase in home values that we've seen, right? So people don't necessarily want to delve into the housing market paying over $1 million for their dream home. So they're doing it via additions and extensions or improvements to their home.
Right. Okay. What has that meant for a company like your company, Highbridge? For example, has your own payroll increased? Have you hired people, for example?
Yes. Yeah. We've had a pretty dramatic increase in a number of employees, which is a little stressful during COVID, right? Because you never know when something's going to or when it's going to shut down. So, but yeah, we've increased dramatically on that front. Like I said, created new divisions as a result of what we've seen come of the pandemic.
Yeah, and if you're on a job site, say, middle of 2020 job site or 2021 compared to 2019, how has that had to adapt? What have you had to do there?
Well, we've got washing stations at a lot of our larger sites, so there's a few more restrictions that are in place. I think that the biggest difference that we felt, though, is the number of trades that we can have on a particular project at any given time, right? So the days of having 3 or 4 trades working at the same time is kind of a thing of the past until COVID lifts. But that's probably been the most dramatic impact on our business. So projects are taking a little bit longer.
Okay. Let's say I call Highbridge, are you going to be able to get the job done? And I mean that like in this year?
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, we've gotten a lot of comments from from clients that are calling in saying that, they've tried 2 other contractors and they're all booked up till 2022.
Right.
We've taken a pretty aggressive approach to hiring in spite of the pandemic. So we're still, we've still got work that we can add for this calendar year. I don't think we've booked other than maybe a custom home or 2 by the client's choice for next year. Everything else we've managed to squeeze in right now. So like I said, we got approximately 40 architectural design projects going on right now. So that could translate into 40 more large projects, additions, and custom homes. So we still have room for more.
Okay. And when it comes to your industry now, is it pretty much a year-round industry, Mr. Hamilton? Do you do work year-round, or is it more or less seasonal? Or
we do. I'd say it's somewhat cyclical. It's not unlike the housing market and real estate, right, where it typically picks up in the spring. That being said, we work year-round. There's just certain things we would push out, because of weather conditions to the spring, summer, or fall. But no, it's year-round, but there's busier times for sure.
Must be liking the mild start to spring then.
Yeah, for sure.
If you don't mind, what's it like to try and get your hands on the supplies that you need right now?
Well, early on in COVID, it was problematic. Now there's certain, like lumber, of course, can be problematic. I know with trusses for roofs, there's large delays on that front. But overall, I think it's been pretty good since the beginning, where it was a little rougher. But we haven't had too many problems of late.
Okay. Would you say there's a skills shortage? Do we have a skills shortage in the building trades right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's probably the most difficult obstacle that our industry has, right? Is lining up the skilled trades and vetting them and making sure that they meet your standards. But yeah, there's definitely a shortage on that front.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hamilton. Continued success, sir. I'm glad business is doing well for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
Co-owner, Highbridge Construction, Ottawa. Business is doing very well. Santi Rios is with Primo RV Center here in Ottawa. Manager there joins me this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, nice to hear from you, Mr. Rios. How's business?
Thank you very much. It's incredibly busy.
Incredibly
very
busy. Okay. How would you say it compares to years past?
Well, it's
insane.
We're certainly on an upward cycle. Yeah. One thing we are seeing this year, I think very, very similar to your previous guest, we're seeing some huge shortages right now in the RV industry. So our capacity for selling product seems to be unlimited, but our ability to get that product in has been very, very challenging. And there's a variety of reasons for that. Supply chains being disrupted and demand at huge historical highs. So it's been a little bit of a challenge getting the product in.
Right. Okay. How would you describe what you have on your site? Right. Where are you? Primo RV Center in Ottawa.
We are at 995 Moody Drive.
Oh, okay. All right. Out on the west end there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And
we're actually doing pretty good. We're a Coachman exclusive dealer, and we do have priority with them for getting product in. Certain floor plans are sold out till the fall. However, we just made fortunately, we were able to make a deal with one of the last independent RV manufacturers in the States with Gulfstream, and we're looking at getting hopefully, anywhere from 50 to 60 pieces here in the next 6 to 8 weeks, but it will probably go quick as well. So we were fortunate to make that deal, but it's been slow. It's been slow to get the product in, and I think most of the dealers are probably in a very similar boat.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Sold out till the fall.
Certain floor plans, absolutely.
It's March.
Yep. Absolutely. And there are, some of the brands that we're seeing out there as well. They're into 2023 allocations as well. So we're not in that boat, fortunately.
Okay.
But it is unusual. In 30 some years in this business, I've never seen anything quite like it.
Is it a lot of say repeat business? Is it people who have owned RVs before, or is it people who, are you seeing a lot of people who have never bought an RV before. For example, if I went to RV Center, Ottawa, okay, on Moody Drive, I wouldn't have the foggiest idea what to look for, Mr. Rios, to tell you the truth. You'd have to walk me through the whole process. Are there a lot of newbies like me?
There is actually, especially over the last year, we've seen quite a bit of first-timers getting into the industry, which of course makes sense, right? I mean, we're still in a lockdown, and there's really limited choices for taking a holiday. So the RVing seems to be the answer, but not just for a holiday. We're seeing a lot of people that have, different lifestyles. For example, guys that want to be out mountain biking, people that want to be out climbing. The RV becomes an enabler for that lifestyle. So yes, we're seeing quite a bit of first-timers getting into it for sure. And you know what, our staff here, I mean, we love first-timers. It's kind of our specialty, and we'll love to talk to you and take you through and show you what options are best for what you have. And with that being said, yeah, we have a very strong repeat and referral business as well.
Okay. What's moving? What's hot? What do people want in an RV right now?
There's a segment in the industry, ultralight, sport utility friendly towable product that seems to be extremely hot right now.
Like the teardrop type stuff?
No, not
stuff
necessarily
like
teardrop, although that's certainly part of the segment. I would say that's a little bit more niche, but we're seeing units anywhere from the 20 to 24 foot range that are easily towable by a lot of today's SUVs, especially in this market. We're seeing them have quite strong demand for that product in that size range.
Right. But what I'm hearing is if it's not on your lot or in your showroom, if I have to ask for it, I might be waiting a while, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're asking the clients to have some flexibility in their choice. I mean, if they zero in on a specific floor plan, and that's what it needs to be, then of course we'll gladly order it for you. But yes, there will be a wait. If there's a little bit of flexibility in the choice and we can get something that's 90% say as good as what the customer wants, then we can get them up and camping a lot quicker.
All right. Have a great season. Sounds like you're going to have a great season. Thank you, Mr. Rios, Santi Rios from Primo RV Center, Ottawa, Moody Drive. Back with Michelle Rempel-Garner, Opposition Health Critic, on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
It's such a beautiful field because it's all natural. I'm able to talk to a lot of people who are going through different journeys of health where they really don't know where to start, where to begin. And I'm happy and grateful to have all this knowledge where I can actually help them and guide them. So, of course, medications have a great place in our system, but even so do natural therapies, which have been around for centuries and centuries. Like, old time, ancient times, everything, herbs grew, everything was done with nature, all healing was done with nature. So I'm totally in love with all the elements with nature. In our beautiful village of Manatic, the Manatic Natural Market, you can find tremendous different things. So we have herbs, we have vitamins, we have natural body care, we do infrared sauna therapy, nutrition counseling, acupuncture, Bowen therapy, energy healing. So we're like a wellness hub along with being a full health food store. We are 1 year into pandemic since it started last year in March. It was a shock. Usually I see things coming, and I definitely did not see that coming. Golden Root is a product that I created 4 years ago, actually for my kids, just for immune system, overall health. And it just took off with certain friends of mine who had cancer or some severe issues, and they started finding that it was really helping them from different tests they had done with their doctor. And I knew I had something really special. So then I went through the proper procedure of being able to sell it. So it's actually, I'm not allowed to make it anymore in my house 4 years ago, and it is made in a Health Canada approved lab, and then it comes to me. And what Golden Root is a formulation of turmeric, ginger, lavender, oregano, and black pepper, all food grade, which is the most bioavailable turmeric in the market right now for pain, inflammation, digestion, immune system, concussion, liver health, and brain health. So, and it tastes like salad dressing. We do a lot of in-house, so we make our in-house concoctions of teas. You can come here, tell us what your health issues are, and we can blend it right there. And there's some that are already prepared beforehand for sleeping, for anxiety, for different things. And in that bar, we basically make cold brew teas and cold brew nitrogen coffee. And again, it's all local. Everything we do is local, and as many herbs we can find locally as well. If a client can't come out, we'll go out of our way to deliver it. And you're getting that personal touch when you come in. If you have an issue, we will listen and help you. We're very, very active in the community, so we would like the same thing back for the community to come to.
Icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Let's get some political reaction this morning to the news out of Nassau on the Astrazeneca vaccine. The health critic for the Conservative Party of Canada is Michelle Rempel-Garner. Joins me this morning once more on the Rob Snow Show. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. What do you think of this latest advice from this advisory committee?
So, just so that people understand, the advisory committee was formed by the federal government to give advice specifically on vaccines, but COVID-19 vaccines within the big scope of their work. But it's actually Health Canada that determines whether or not a medical product is safe for use. And what happened yesterday was a gong show. So very quickly, 2 weeks ago, not 2 years ago, but 2 weeks ago, when news out of the EU that blood clotting could potentially be an issue with the AstraZeneca vaccine, I had Health Canada officials in front of our committee, and I said, do you have any concerns? Are you going to pause this? And the answer was no. Now, 2 weeks later, yesterday, we had this panel of doctors, the advice panel, saying we should pause it. And then on the same day, we had two different top officials from the health department almost at the same time on national TV, one saying, well, we're going to pause it, and the other one saying that we aren't. And to me, like everything else aside, there's so many things we could talk about on this issue. It's who's in charge right now and how are they making decisions at a time when, every one of us needs to have confidence in the decisions that the government are making with regard to our health. The type of debacle that we've seen over the last 2 weeks, but particularly yesterday, is really concerning. And the fact that the Prime Minister and the Health Minister aren't on top of that is cause for grave concern for me.
Yeah. I mean, how worried are you about an erosion of confidence right now?
I mean, I think that's a question for your listeners, that I don't think they'd be jamming your phone lines up telling you that they were overly confident right now. And that's a problem. It's a huge problem. I also think that the government is now making decisions around vaccine usage. I know this for a fact, where they're actually looking at the risks associated with the fact that we don't have supply of some of the other vaccines, and they're measuring that and using that in making decisions around guidelines for safety. And that's they need to be transparent about this. So I will be tomorrow afternoon calling for another emergency meeting of the Health Committee. It seems like this is like a daily occurrence, Rob.
Yeah.
We've got to get some answers. And Trudeau, it starts at the top. Trudeau's got to, I hope today he's knocking some heads together going, what happened here? And if he's not willing to at least acknowledge there's a problem, then I think Canadians really have to ask whether or not he's fit to lead at this time of crisis.
Well, it seems to me one of the problems is, I keep coming back to this old line, too many cooks spoil the broth. There are too many messengers here. Say what you will about the Americans, but I think they have a consistent messenger. The person that they point to is Dr. Fauci, and a lot of people listen to him, and they put their faith in him, or whatever the case might be, and that means he has to take the slings and the arrows as well. But here, as you say, we have this. I mean, this is very authoritative sounding. NACI, National Advisory Committee on Immunization. My gosh, who else would you listen to? Or are you supposed to listen to Health Canada? It approves the vaccine. So we have this. NACI has had 3 different positions now on this vaccine in less than a month. Meantime, Health Canada, the regulator, still has really not, other than slapping a warning label on this product about blood clots, rare instances of blood clots, says it's safe for use in all adults. So who are you supposed to listen to? Who are you supposed to believe? I think if Canadians are growing frustrated, it's understandable.
Well, for me to not be able to have an answer to that question as the opposition health critic after yesterday, I think that's a concern for all Canadians. You're so right, Rob. The government's inability to get communications right on the pandemic writ large, I think, has eroded public trust, and it's also contributed to our poor response to the pandemic. I mean, first masks were unsafe to wear, then they were safe to wear, then we should wear them, then it's 2 layers of masks, then it's 3 layers of masks. Then first the border closures didn't work, then they did work. Now there's quarantine hotels, but there's no data for quarantine hotels. And it's just, I think that this is going to result in poor public health outcomes. And there's a buck stops. I can see the Liberal government trying to blame bureaucrats, but the buck stops with the political ministers. And so this needs to change. It's something we'll be all over today for sure. But I think, the public needs to say we deserve better and we deserve clarity on these issues. Enough is enough.
Okay. I'm wondering how, the initial rollout of the vaccine program has not gone well. It's well documented. It's backed up by the vaccine tracking data. Canada does not compare well to its G7 peer countries. I'm wondering now, in light of this news, what it means for deliveries, what it means for shipments, what it means for getting actual doses in arms, and whether we fall even further behind our peer countries. What do you think,
I'm
Michelle
so glad you brought this up. That's one of my top questions today. Is the Prime Minister was banking on 1.5 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccines being delivered from the United States to fill some of the shortfalls that we have on the Pfizer and Moderna doses, right? So now there's a few big questions. So now many provinces are not administering the vaccine to seniors, and now it's not being administered to age 55 and under. So there's like a 10-year window. What happens to people in that age, those age groups that have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine? What happens to them? Are you getting a second dose of it? Do you need to have this other vaccine? What happens if, can you mix vaccines?
Right. Yeah.
And then also all these vaccines, my understanding, I have heard that they have a short shelf life, that the doses that we're getting from the Americans may be expiring soon. And, I need to get clarity on that because, getting a bunch of vaccines that have expired or may expire, I mean, that's a big problem. And certainly this is a problem for the provinces in terms of them trying to, can you imagine being a provincial health official right now trying to figure out a dosing schedule or delivery schedule, not knowing?
You're back to the drawing board again, right? You're back to the drawing board again, yeah. Now, look, I just want to talk a little bit more. Michelle Rempel-Garner is our guest, Conservative Member of Parliament. She is the health critic for the official opposition, because people are a little bit confused about what the goal of the opposition is here when it comes to a kind of a set of standards or metrics on reopenings, because it looks as though, for example, Dr. Henry put in a 3-week circuit breaker yesterday for British Columbia, and maybe that's a sign of things to come. Premier Ford in Ontario has not been shy about, to use his words, slamming on the emergency brake, and if more lockdowns are necessary, maybe that's the state of things. So people have been wondering, what's the Conservative party's aim here. It seems more of a provincial thing when it comes to reopening the economy. What are you trying to get at with a set of standards there?
First of all, there are significant areas of jurisdiction within the federal government by which they order restrictions. That, look at the border, right? People coming into the country, the quarantine hotel issue, that has a huge impact on virtually every industry, family reunification. So they should be doing that. The second thing is that the federal government issues guidance on virtually every other health issue, right? Like this week, Theresa Tam was out in the media saying that with case numbers saying that restrictions are going to be required. So if they're willing to issue guidance in a wide variety of other areas, to support provinces in making decisions, to use the thousands of bureaucrats and hundreds of millions of dollars that the federal government puts forward to gather data and come up with recommendations. Like, why wouldn't the federal government be doing that in a time of crisis, right? Like providing better information, particularly as it pertains to people who have received vaccines, what they can and can't do. The United States is far ahead of us on that, so is the UK. Saying, okay, well, if you're fully vaccinated, here's what you can do. Although, to be fair, in Canada, nobody's in danger of being fully vaccinated anytime soon, it seems. So maybe that's why they're pushing back on this. But, Rob, we are a year into this now. Yeah. And, I just don't think it's fair for, the federal government to just be pointing at the provinces and saying, oh, you're going it on your own. I mean, you start getting to the point of it's like, well, why do you even have a job, right?
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command.